it was a time that Tom Crutchfield really laid into me in his front yard.
What were you doing in his front yard?
So we get to Crutchfield's place, and Brian and Miguel and Noah were like running around the property trying to catch frogs, trying to catch chickens, just like trying to catch anything that was in Tom's yard, basically. Like, and then they're trying to get these little tree geckos, the Madagascar day geckos that are on this palm tree, and they're like trying to jump up and grab them. And I was like, let me show you how you can do a Hawaiian climb on this tree. I took my shoes off. I was like, I'll get a gecko for you guys. Hold on a second. And I'm like partway up this tree, and Tom comes out the front yard. Hey, what are you doing in that tree? I was like, I got down. I was like, just trying to catch these geckos. And he's like, you don't touch those geckos. I was like, dude, everybody shut up. Like literally everybody, I had been doing nothing but like kind of watching and filming people, and everybody's running around herping Tom's yard. And the second that I started herping, he comes out, and like, I literally felt like I was in kindergarten, and that was my kindergarten teacher.
This episode is brought to you by Reptiles to You. If you're shipping reptiles, you need a company built by reptile industry professionals that you can trust. That's why I'm excited to be working with Ben Gann, the owner of Reptiles to You. Ben and the rest of his team are incredibly committed to quality work and customer service. They specialize in live animal shipping, working directly with carriers to ensure your animals arrive safely, on time, and in great condition. With a reputation built on that high level of service, integrity, and expertise, Reptiles to You is the absolute standard by which other reptile shipping companies are measured. Don't risk your next shipment. Visit reptiles2u.com today. This episode is brought to you by Soul Reptile. Soul Reptile is a boutique, direct-to-consumer lighting and husbandry company focused on bringing the latest reptile physiology and lighting science into the hobby. They're the creators of the Vision LED, the most powerful UVA1 LED available for reptile lighting. They also produce precisely tuned near-infrared systems designed for specialized animals, including invertebrates. If you're serious about replicating natural sunlight and dialing in your animal's environment, Soul Reptile is pushing that science forward. Soul Reptile, the science of the sun. This episode is brought to you in part by Exoterra. If you're as passionate about reptiles and amphibians as I am, you know that quality matters. I use Exoterra products on all my reptile and amphibian enclosures, which is why I'm excited to be partnering with them. From naturalistic decor to innovative lighting and enclosures of all sizes, Exoterra has everything you need for your cold-blooded companions. Exoterra, make your reptiles feel at home. This is the Expert and the Idiot podcast. If you like the show and you'd like to support us, there's a link to our Patreon in the description below. Some benefits include getting access to new episodes up to a month in advance. There's also links to USARK and USARK Florida. If you're not already a member, please sign up. Enjoy the show. Yeah, man, you're looking jacked. Are you doing? You were doing a lot of calisthenics and everything. Are you still doing that, or are you doing a lot of weights?
Not as much calisthenics. I mean, I'll hit some push-ups or whatever. I actually got I got some people on board now with the working out, which that's actually honestly the biggest thing. I've tried to stay in shape and stay physically active most of my life. Whether it's bike riding, running, or something. And then I go through lazy spells as well, where I just like completely fall off and eat pints of ice cream every night. And I'm trying to keep those nights at bay as I get older. But mostly weights and mostly trying to control diet. I've got my wife on board, which is the biggest thing. We actually built just right on the other side of this wall here. We built a little garage gym.
Oh, hell yeah.
And so I'm hitting that with her 3 to 4 times a week. And then my buddy Nick, who runs the All-American Reptile and Plant Expo with Troy, I got, and their wives, of course. But I got down there, one of the first shows in Denver, and I, just like I usually do with people, I want to be active with folks. And I was like, let's do push-up contests. And we played this game growing up called 21, which is basically I do a push-up, then you do a push-up, then I do 2, then you do 2, then I do 3, then you do 3. We keep going like that till we get to 21, if we get to 21. And then if we do get to 21, I'll invite you to come back down the ladder, back down to 1 in reverse, and you end up doing like almost 500 push-ups or something.
Wow.
But I did that with him. He didn't quite make it to 21, and he wasn't very happy about the fact that he didn't make it to 21. So he decided I need to start getting back after it. So now when I go out to the shows with them, which is at this point about 10 times a year, they're putting on shows and probably adding more. It's nice because I don't fall off from that routine because he's ready to go to the gym. He's got a membership. In fact, he's pushing me. He's younger than me too, but he's pretty strong. So he's like, all right, let's go. 6 o'clock before the show. Like, oh man,
that's awesome, dude. It's wild. Like, cause I'm going through a similar thing at my work. Like I've always worked out. I've always been in the gym, and I've just gone up in the amount of days and weight as the years have gone on, and kind of dialed in more. But there's been like this huge change in my workplace where guys are turning down the donuts. They are incorporating weightlifting and walking and getting steps in and optimizing sleep and everything. And it's just such a cool thing to see. It's so, because it's like, it's not like, for me, it's not like I want everybody to be jacked and blah, blah, blah. I want everybody to be healthy and happy, and when you're healthy and active, you have so much energy and you just feel so good that, it's worth eating the plain chicken breast at lunch and, getting your steps in, and getting a good night's sleep. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's so funny that you say that stuff because it's true. But I literally, like, that was my day yesterday, like literally eating chicken breast at lunch, which I hate. I absolutely hate chicken breast, but I've learned to like it. I've found this place that smokes them, and it's like some of the best chicken ever. They just smoke. I don't know what they do when they smoke it, but man, it's good. But it's still dry chicken breast, even though I'm putting it in with some salad and whatnot. And then, like you said, like last couple of weeks, I've been really trying to work on sleeping, and my house is noisy. And if I don't get to sleep before 9 o'clock, like chances are I'm going to get up and start snacking on stuff. So I've been going to the little trailer downstairs, taking a couple of sleep gummies. And like, that was my day yesterday. I was like, okay, I know it's only 7:45, so I feel like a nerd going here to sit in my trailer, but that's what I'm doing because I'm trying to optimize sleep patterns.
It's hilarious. It really is. But and walking by, like I walk by this guy in the break room and I see him like sitting there miserable, eating chicken breast and everything. And I'm like, yes, you're not supposed to always enjoy what you eat, Right. I did follow up the chicken breast lunch with a wonderful ribeye for dinner with some, potatoes and stuff. So that was awesome. But oh, heck yeah.
And I've learned that if you want to hit the goal, I just kind of got to accept that it's going to be boring for a little while until I get to that spot. And then I can maybe, to be fair, I did have some chocolate covered marshmallows right before I went to play pickleball after dinner. So there's still some fun involved.
Yeah, we do. Me and my family, we do the little Haagen-Dazs cups, because they're like 250 calories. So you're still indulging. You can hit the bottom of that cup and it's no big deal. Whereas, I used to do the pint and I'd be sitting there and all of a sudden, like, you're like, oh, I'm just going to have a little bit. And next thing you know, you're scraping the bottom of that cardboard.
Bro, I've very often the grocery store down the street on Wednesdays would have this deal where if you buy 4 Haagen-Dazs pints, they're only like $2.50. They like roll the prices back to 1990 or whatever. And I'm like, oh great, I can get 4 and I'll have, I'll have ice cream forever. And then I would often not even for like 2 days. Like I'd go to finish the first one, be like, well, I've got another one, so I might as well eat that. And then there's more behind that, so I can eat that one. Oh. And it was so stupid and just so tasty, but also very stupid. Yeah.
This year I've kind of dialed myself. I think I'm down about 20 pounds from the beginning of the year.
Same.
And it's, it's just, I feel better. I feel lighter. Cardio's easier, pull-ups are easier. It's worth it. You feel better. You feel better going upstairs. My job is physical. It's just easier to do my job, so.
Totally. Yeah, exactly the same. I mean, well, my job isn't super physical, but feeling that way, like I'm hitting PRs every other week, that I've never hit in my life. And I'm like going to be 45 this year. So I'm pretty excited about that, being like, because a lot of people say you peak physically in your early 20s, which there's probably some truth to that, especially if you're like professional athlete or something. But it's nice to know that I'm even stronger now than I was when I was in my 20s. That's kind of exciting for me.
Well, and don't you feel like you have more confidence and wisdom and money as well? Like there's so many, to me, it's like life is just getting better as I age. I'm not one of those people that look back on my teens or early 20s and think those were the days for me personally. So I was like 260, 270 pounds when I was in my teens. So I look back and I don't enjoy my memories. You know, there was a lot of being made fun of. There was a lot of being ridiculed, all by people that aren't doing so great today. You know, so it's, you know, that's fantastic to be able to, you know, to have grown into something that I can be more proud of and actually happy with.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I can definitely look back at my teens and 20s and doing way better now than I was then. That's for sure. Oh,
yeah. Hamburger helper. I remember just being terrified of like overdrawing the bank account to get to get dinner when I was like 20, you know?
Well, I am in California, so finances are not exactly what there I was doing better that way in the last probably 5 to 8 years. It's been a little bit more of a struggle currently, but I'm not complaining because we're still living in a wonderful house with as much food as we need to eat and all that stuff. So
yeah. It is so true. I was talking to a friend yesterday about that, my buddy Phil, and I was like, dude, we're like the richest human beings on earth. You know, outside, if you look at any people outside of America, you know, like even us, it's not like we're not top 1% in America, but we're top 1% in the world.
That's
Our
true.
hobby is snakes. You know, I have thousands of dollars worth of enclosures, you know, like so do you. I'm looking at them right now, right? Like we're so incredibly lucky to be living the lives we're living.
Yeah, 100% correct. 100% correct. Yeah,
so
enclosures you can't see too. So yeah, there's even more.
This episode is brought to you by Chewy. Most people think of Chewy for dog and cat food, but if you keep reptiles, you should absolutely be using them too. Chewy carries everything from all the brands you trust, like Exoterra, Arcadia, Zoomed, and everything in between. Live feeders to frozen rodents, enclosures, substrate, heat lamps, thermostats, water bowls, misters, and more. All in one place, shipped straight to your door. Sign up for Chewy Plus today, free for 30 days. You get free shipping, 5% rewards, and exclusive offers. I use Chewy, and you should too. Dude, I'm really excited to have you on because I have an Argentine boa from the litter produced by you and Travis Johnson.
Oh, nice.
So I can't remember the dude's name that I got her from. He had motorcycles, but either way, he got one. I think he got his from either you or Travis. I can't remember, but she's like a person. She's my favorite snake of all my snakes. She is my favorite snake. She's so chill. She's so laid back. She has such a personality. She always wants to come out and interact. So thank you for that. Thank you for making that joint pairing happen. Yeah.
You can thank Travis too. It wouldn't have happened without him, obviously.
Yeah, he's a great dude. So yeah, that's. Do you have any Argentines anymore? Do you plan on getting more Argentines?
I don't. You know, there was a moment where I was looking to slim down to next to nothing, which I'm still thinking about. I actually, you know, I was kind of happy with what happened with the male. I had Vin Russo had his fire, and I had an auction here and sold a number of boas, especially because it was for Vin, seemed appropriate. And I was able to donate a good chunk of money to Vin during his fire time. So, no, I don't have any Argentina. I don't have any boas any longer. But I have, I've got mostly pythons. I've got a very feisty blue beauty up there who's looking at me, and reticulated pythons. Yeah, the indigo snake still. I was looking at I have this daydream of like getting down to 10 snakes. I don't know how realistic that is. If it might just be a daydream, but I would like to get down to 10 snakes. That would be that would be cool for me. I don't know that it's going to happen, but I think about it and talk about it.
Why 10? Why 10 snakes?
That just seems reasonable. The number, I guess, is just a number. Or could do one. I spent most of my life with one snake, and I was totally happy with that. So 10 just seems, I don't know, because you have 10 fingers. I have no idea why I picked that number. I did have this Freedom Breeder rack that was 10, but I just sold that to my buddy Riley. I just met him in Livermore a couple days ago, and we swapped it out. So I'm not going to be using that rack at all. But
Riley, as in Riley's Reptiles?
Jimison, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah. He I don't know when I first meet Riley. I think it must have been at the Super Show. That was it. Is it one of the reptile super shows? But he came down too when they were having fires up north. He came down, and Travis helped him like watch his snakes and like give a kind of like a fire shelter for Riley's snakes. So he would come to Carpet Fest down there. So that was kind of cool because Travis was the first local person that I met when I moved to this part of California that was like a reptile keeper like me. Like I met a couple of reptile folks through there's a club. There still is a club down here called Too Slow. It's part of the California Turtle and Tortoise Club. And when I was first moving to the area, I was like, where are the reptile people around me? And they're having this meeting. And the herpetology professor, Dr. Emily Taylor from San Luis Obispo, or from Cal Poly, was giving a presentation on rattlesnakes. I was like, sweet. Even though it was a turtle club, that just happened to be that night they were doing some rattlesnake thing. And I ended up becoming friends with her and like bringing her snakes. Like I'd bring her like gopher snakes that had gotten hit by weed whackers by my neighbor or something. And she would like stitch them up and we get them better. She was pretty incredible. She like found a king snake one time on the road, or somebody brought it to her, where the king snake had been run over by a car and its heart was literally like outside of its body. And she like took it and like tucked the heart back in and like sutured up the different layers, and like the king snake ended up living for years after that. It like had its own Twitter account and stuff.
Wow.
But so that group was the first reptile people. But Travis, I think was looking on Morph Market or something, or some way he saw that I was in Atascadero, which is 10 minutes south of where he was at the time. He was like, oh, this guy's close to me. So he sent me a message like, hey, I'm close. We should meet up. We're reptile guys. And I went, cool. It was pretty cool. I went up to his house, or what I thought was his house. He gave me the address, and I went to the wrong street somehow, but the right address. And there was this guy. I had never met him. I had no idea what he looked like. I was just like going over, and I had my son at the time. He was, how old was Noah? Noah must have been like 5 or something, 6. And there's this guy out front with his kids, and I walk up, I'm like, hey man. He's like, hey, and we like shake hands, and like seems really friendly. I was like, yeah, I'm here. Like, I went to the wrong house, and the guy was like outside hanging out, chill and cool, and like we were hanging out. I thought like, but he was also being a little bit weird, like a little bit like I was like, thought we were gonna go inside, like check out the snakes or whatever. And so I'm like hanging out, but the guy was super friendly, and like we're hanging out up front and like doing this and that. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go inside for a little bit, and then I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just wait out here until you invite me in. And so after that, like I think I finally dawned on me after a good half hour of hanging out in this guy's front lawn with him and his kids, and like realizing that I'm not being invited inside quite yet. I was like, I wonder am I at the wrong house?
That is hilarious, dude.
So I was a block away. Travis knows the guy. He says he's a super friendly guy, but yeah, it took about 30 minutes before I finally realized that wasn't Travis at all. And it all started making sense why he seemed a little bit weird about how close I was getting to his front door. And
oh my word, that is hilarious. Wow. Yeah, Dr. Emily Taylor. Yeah, she's incredible. I think I just listened to her on So Much Pingle, and she's just so enthusiastic.
Oh yeah.
And intelligent and just so excited about snakes that it's inspiring. Listening to her, it's like
she moved up to North County. Sorry. She moved up to North County. She was in a Slow area, and her husband owned a brewery, which was super cool because her grad students would like go there and have these parties. One of her grad students, Haley Crowell, if you ever get a chance to get her on here, she's super interesting as well, and like very dedicated to, like, she did her PhD on like rattlesnake coloration and stuff like that. I went with her down to Montana de Oro. We were tracking rattlesnakes with like World War II equipment and
Whoa.
super cool stuff. But she's doing all kinds of cool stuff. She's up in Michigan right now, I think, but maybe out of the country. I know she does all kinds of crazy stuff. But Dr. Emily Taylor, she moved up North County, and my understanding is right now she has like a free rattlesnake relocation program. You know, people find rattlesnakes. She's got their thing online. Just call them up. They'll come get the snake for free and relocate it and educate people. So she's, to your point, like her passion and her willingness to stitch up random snakes that are brought to her and spend her time, you know, she's definitely excited and passionate about what she does. No doubt about that.
Yeah, it's incredible. People like that come along that love animals so much and are just so curious and so interested in the animals. I mean, it's what brings us all to the hobby, you know, but it's incredible when you have ambassadors like that are willing to work with the wild animals and try to convey the knowledge and relay that knowledge along to people so they can appreciate rattlesnakes and not want to whack them with a shovel.
Yeah,
we need more of that because we need snakes out there, including the rattlesnakes. Like they've been here longer than us. They've got a place here.
Yep. Yeah, definitely.
So what is making you want to minimize your collection?
Time. You know, I'm not you know, I've got four kids. I'm not working full-time YouTube anymore, which definitely gave me the flexibility to make sure I don't want to not be able to give as much care and attention to as many snakes as it takes. And I've had an intern for a little bit at one point, but I've never really been comfortable with like having somebody else take care of my animals, even like family members. Like I want to be hands-on. And I think at the level that I could do this, it would require hiring people. So that as far as how I'm working now, and how much time I have to dedicate to it. So that's part of it. And that's I think a big part of it. But also, I don't know, the simplicity of it, you know, it's like I don't feel as connected with every single animal as I did when I was able to spend like all day down in the room. Mm. So I think, I mean, they all still have names and stuff, but I just don't feel that same connection with all of and I'd like to get back to that, to just having like more close relationships with the individual animals that I have. And with the number that I have, it just doesn't seem feasible with the time that I have, if that makes sense.
How many animals are you at right now?
I mean, I just had a bunch hatch, so it just doubled probably. Somewhere around the 40, you know, I think my max was like 80. And then, you know, during hatching season, it might bump up over 100.
Wow.
But right now I'm down to like closer to 40 to 50. But now that a bunch have hatched, probably back up closer to 80 or 90 with all the babies. So, you know, I'd love to get down to that 10 number, and during hatching season, like bump up to like 30 or 40. There was a small moment in time about 2017 where I actually wrote out a business plan and was thinking about doing this as a business, the breeding side of snakes as a business. And right in that same time frame, right early 2018, I started working with Freedom Breeder, and the video production side of things became the business. So I was able to just kind of push aside the snake breeding business idea, which I was glad for, because I don't know. I think it takes a certain person to be an actual professional snake breeder that does that, and that's your main business. That definitely, in my opinion, requires hiring people. I don't think there's anybody out there doing it 100% full time that does not hire people and does not have like a large building and produces their own rodent. Actually, there are probably a couple of exceptions of people that don't produce their own rodents still and do it full time, but it's more rare.
Yeah, Jason Ramondi, I know he orders his rodents because he shows the shipments come in and it's like a pallet of rodents, you know, and he's got guys that come and help out. And yeah, I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
You know,
and Barczyk was able to do that too for a bit. He stopped producing his own, or I don't know if he ever did actually, but I mean, he was the biggest breeder in the world at one point, and he was sourcing his rodents. And I think that's correct. There was no rodent room when I went there.
Mm.
I'm pretty sure he was at one point ended up sourcing everything.
Wow. How close were you to Brian?
I mean, we were pretty close. I was just rolling back through some. I don't remember. I was looking for something. What was I looking for? A certain piece of information. I was scrolling back through our text message thread, looking for what was I looking for? I was looking for something, some name. Oh, I was looking for a name of somebody that we were both interacting with on line and YouTube comments, because we would communicate about that stuff. I didn't find it, but as I was scrolling back, we kept in pretty constant communication. And we went on some trips. I probably can't talk about it too much because I'll not be able to talk. But we're pretty close. He was like definitely the guy that got me into this whole side of it, going from a guy that had a snake as a kid to somebody who was making YouTube videos and breeding. And he was a big part of that. He really helped me out in some spots where things were really tough. And, I was kind of able to do the same on his end. I'd go out and visit him. We'd have some one-on-one time, which was more rare because more often there's people around, but there was a number of times, it was really that he was actually the type of guy that gave you the shirt off his back. Like literally, with Jay Brewer was having this like get together thing at his shop, and Brian was out there. I think it was the first time I was ever going out to the Tinley Park show, and I don't remember exactly what the situation was. I just know I was flying out the same day as Brian was the next day, and I think I was going to go back to my father-in-law's or my in-laws the night before. And Brian caught wind of, oh, you're going to Tinley tomorrow too? Oh, me too. I'm flying out. Where are you flying out? He's like, asking all kinds of questions. And I was like, yeah, I'm flying out of LAX at whatever time. He's like, oh, what are you going to do? Blah, blah. He's like, asking like what all my plans were. And he ended up just letting me stay in his hotel room with him before flying out. And we were not close at that point, but
Wow.
He was just that type of guy. And then I remember we went on our Indonesia trip, which he called me to invite me to, which I don't know what it was, because I know for a fact from just seeing messages or just knowing who he was that there's constantly people, reaching out to him, wanting to do stuff here and there. I have no idea what it was that I did or said that I got a personal invitation to an Indonesia trip. But when he did that, I was telling my wife, I was like, I don't know how this is going to happen, but I know I need to accept this invitation. And so we went out on that on the road for like 2 weeks to Indonesia, just doing all kinds of crazy stuff, like jumping into enclosures with Komodo dragons and like kissing cobras and doing all kinds of wild stuff out there. And
Wow.
I remember I crashed my drone into a bridge like one of the first couple of days we were there. Because I was trying to get this shot. of going up this river in Jakarta and like fly the drone up above the bridge and like get that kind of cool shot. And there was some fixture in the water, and the anti-collision software and sensors on the drone wouldn't let me fly past this thing, even though I wasn't going to hit it because it was close enough that. So I turned into sport mode, which makes the drone go twice as fast, but also turns off all the anti-collision software. But I'd practiced it so many times with the collision software on, it was going half the speed. And so I was going way too fast. And when I went to do the lift and it didn't clear the bridge and just smashed into the bridge, which was amazing. And Brian was standing there watching me fly it. And he was just like, oh man, that sucks. But the first thing he said, it was 10 seconds after he watched me smash my drone to the side of the bridge. He's like, hey man, sorry, you can fly mine. I was like, you saw what I did to mine. You're telling me I could fly yours? And he did. He let me, like the rest of the trip, he just let me fly his drone. I was super careful with it and didn't crash it. But yeah, I was just the type of guy he was. And I could really appreciate people like that, who just are. He was such a kind person. Yeah, I miss him, dude.
Does that kind of kindness, is that infectious to you? Does it make you want to emulate that sort of behavior and pay it forward?
Yeah, I mean, my parents, I got pretty solid parents. They raised us with pretty strong. My folks are pretty stand up folks, and they definitely instilled in me like that whole cliche, like you don't have something nice to say, don't say it, or like that type of stuff. Like we kind of try to live that out. I definitely don't succeed at it all the time, but yeah, he definitely inspired me with that. But there's also times, sometimes when just sitting in the room, we'd like read YouTube comments, and I remember that was one of the first times I was hanging out with him in person, and he was just reading comments, and he's just joking, of course. Was I'd be like reading some comments and be like, "Oh, you should reply to him. Just tell him, hey, fuck you." And I was like, and when he said, it, I was like, "Whoa, this guy, he doesn't say that on YouTube." but it ultimately, I mean, he would joke around like that, but ultimately, like he would definitely was like just tried to be the nicest person to everybody around. And yeah, it did inspire me, and I was like, yeah, definitely inspired me to be like that. Though I might fail at it daily.
Man, well, we all do, right? Because we're people.
Yeah.
It's no matter how hard you try, you lose your temper. Somebody cuts you off. What do you have any other stories about him that you could share without, I don't want to put you in a position where you feel uncomfortably emotional so early in the morning.
Yeah, no, I'm not too. I just didn't want to just go into it. I'm fine. Honestly, I'm fine. I'll cry in front of the whole world. I don't really care about that. Like I just feel it's been so, at some point you got to get over stuff, but maybe not. I mean, I still got him on my watch. So like every time I check my phone, I see his face, or check the time. He's on my I can like put the picture on my watch. So, that helps. But yeah, there was a while there. Like I remember I went to the Super Show right after he passed, and like I had such a hard time picking up my camera, which I felt like I knew he wouldn't want me to feel like that. And I was pretty joyful, especially with his journey of faith that he went on during that process. That gave me a lot of hope, but it was still tough. And like I said, I had a hard time picking up my camera at that show. I did a little bit, but I didn't want to necessarily. But stories, there's plenty of good ones. Like I don't know, I just think of all some of the group stuff. Like we went on this trip to Florida, and some of the guys were getting there before me, and we had this whole plan of like, I had this video idea of like, I should like fake like I hitchhiked from here in California to Florida to meet up with I think it was Forrest and Brian and his son, Noah, and Miguel Garcia from All These Evolving Pythons. That was the main crew. Oh, and my space is his name. Steven works with all the Scrub Pythons.
Oh, Kush, yeah.
Yeah, Stephen Kush was there
my
too.
Boy.
Yeah. And I felt bad because Stephen was kind of like the kid and things. So we always ended up sitting in the middle, which he got pretty pissed about that at some point. Like, get out of the car. It's like, get me out of the middle, you guys. But
probably the biggest one in the group too.
Yeah. Well, Forrest was pretty big. Forrest is a big dude.
Yeah.
I think Forrest was actually the biggest, especially then because Stephen was still younger. But yeah, so I had this plan. I was like, I'll get my cousin drive this big truck and like drop me out by the train tracks. I can pretend like I'm hitching on the train tracks. And it just so happened that while I was filming that and about to head out, that Justin Kabilko was visiting Freedom Breeder and had like rented this awesome sports car. And so I was able, because Justin lives in Georgia. So I was able to like complete this hitchhiking timeline and have Justin pick me up at the railroad tracks. And we had this little dialogue about, hey, where are you going to drop me at? Like, hey man, he's like, Brian, what are you doing in Georgia? I was like, oh man, I'm trying to get to Florida. He's like, oh, I can get you to the line, but that's as far as I go. and then the guys had made a sign and were picking me up. Dude, that's not really a story about Brian, but he was there. He obviously having fun. It was a time that Tom Crutchfield really laid into me in his front yard for doing all the stuff that those guys were doing, but I was the only one that got caught doing all the things that everybody was doing in his front yard. And Brian was pretty.
What were you doing in his front yard?
So we get to Crutchfield's place, and everybody turns into little kids. Forrest stays in the car says, I'm not getting out till I'm not going here. I was like, okay. And then Brian and Miguel and Noah were like running around the property trying to catch frogs, trying to catch chickens, just like trying to catch anything that was in Tom's yard, basically, like making jokes about licking toads and doing all this stuff. And then they're trying to get these little tree geckos, the Madagascar day geckos that are on this palm tree. And they're like trying to jump up and grab them. And I was like, let me show you how you can do a Hawaiian climb on this tree. I took my shoes off. I was like, I'll get a gecko for you guys. Hold on a second. And I'm like, part way up this tree, and Tom comes out the front yard. Hey, what are you doing in that tree? I was like, I got down. I was like, just trying to catch these geckos. And he's like, you don't touch those geckos. I was like, dude, everybody shut up. Like literally everybody, I had been doing nothing but like kind of watching and filming people, and everybody's running around herping Tom's yard. And the second that I started herping, he comes out, and like, I literally felt like I was in kindergarten, and that was my kindergarten teacher. And everybody shut up. Everybody was super quiet. Big circle of dudes all standing there, just like not saying a damn thing, just letting Tom lay into me. And I was just like, oh, sorry, sir. Like I didn't know that was super special. They were like his wife's special geckos that she like spends time with and trains them to like come down and lick food off of the fingers and stuff. So they're like special to him. They're not just like some random geckos in his yard. But
he's got that crazy relationship with animals too. I mean, he feeds lizards that are
the
wild.
croc monitors off his hand.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. And yeah, it's bananas to see that.
It is.
And you were ruining it.
I was ruining it. I spent the rest of the day like apologizing. Like he'd be shown around, and then like I know Tom's killed somebody in his yard, so like there was also that aspect of like
wait,
like,
really?
Yeah. It was, self-defense technically, I think.
Holy
or at least,
crap.
At least ended up being self-defense on, whatever happened with the judgment. But so there, I knew that going in. So there was a little bit of also that he's like, for one of the things I mentioned, you don't know me, but I was like, oh, I kind of do.
I know enough.
But it was hilarious. I remember the ride out, like we're leaving, and all these guys like, oh man, I can't believe you let him talk to you like that. I was like, you guys all had your tails between your legs, just like I did, dude. Just shut it. You guys are all so quiet. Everyone's like looking at the ground, like.
What do you think about the documentary that they're doing on Tom?
I haven't seen anything about it yet.
It's kind of gone silent. I mean, I'm assuming it's probably all in post-production now, and they must be doing. I think the filming is done though. I think.
I know I've heard people are concerned about what it's going to do, like if it's going to be like a Tiger King for snakes and what it'll do to the keeping community, and that's always. It seems like that's always been a thing. Like people are concerned about how we're going to look because we are kind of always on the chopping block. It's not like the majority of the world is like, yeah, you should keep snakes. Why wouldn't you? It's like kind of like the opposite. And even how people feel about snakes. Anytime I'm talking to somebody, luckily I've gotten to change lots of people's minds about snakes. But we're still in the minority by far. Yeah. You talk to somebody like, oh, I'm terrified of snakes. I'm always like, well, you're in the majority.
Yeah.
But
I mean, tigers are one thing. I know that they did Tiger King, and then I think they did Chimp Crazy. And I feel like everybody saw Tiger King because it was the COVID
during
times,
COVID,
you know? Yeah. So like everybody you weren't going out, you weren't doing anything. It was like the perfect storm, right? And then they did Chimp Crazy, and I skipped that one, and now they're they're definitely coming for the reptile community. I mean, there's been repercussions and legislation because of these documentaries that have come out, and rightly so. Tigers are legitimate apex predators. I mean, like maybe not everybody should be having tigers, and also there's some really gross stuff there about utilizing the cub or the do you call them cubs? Is it a tiger cub?
I believe so.
That sounds right?
Yeah.
So, but they utilize them for photo ops with people, and then what are they doing with the babies? Like they grow up, and then are they killing them? Are they selling them? Are they like there's some weirdness there for sure, and we all saw the show, but That's the thing is, are we going to see this documentary and is the majority going to say, yeah, nobody should have reptiles as pets. Those guys are psychos, you know?
Yeah, I think there's already people that are of that opinion. The fun thing that I see is that, or the cool thing is that more, at least from what I see, is more people's minds are changed in the other direction versus, yeah. And a lot of the people I talk to, even if they are afraid of snakes, it doesn't mean they necessarily think, oh, you shouldn't have one. Most of the people that even don't like snakes necessarily, like, oh, I always have a story of like, oh yeah, I had a buddy, or I knew this guy that, kept snakes, and like they didn't have a negative opinion about that. They just don't want one for themselves.
Yeah.
So that's fortunate thing, but I think it is possible, definitely, if it took off like a Tiger King type of thing, if it was bad enough light, then, I mean, there's already legislation that's always trying to be enforced every day. Phil's always got his eyes open and on every state and what's going on. There's constantly new things trying to be introduced. So yeah, I don't know. It's interesting country we live in, where it's like this whole idea of freedom, and that there's so many new laws constantly.
Oh yeah,
it's interesting.
Well, and freedom means a different thing depending on what state you live in too.
Yeah, that as well.
It's almost like freedom is an opinion. It literally is, depending on who you're talking to. The freedom for certain groups, classes, whatever, that it depends on where you live. Freedom is different. It has a different definition wherever you are in the country, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in Florida, you're in California. Freedom means different things to our legislators.
Yeah, no kidding. Fortunately, I'm a part of the state where it's not, but it is still the state, and there are definitely things. I like laws to an extent.
Oh
like
yeah, 100%.
Common sense laws. Like I don't want to live in a Wild West society where anybody can just do anything. Like that doesn't sound fun to me at all. But sometimes it's just like, well, there's these legislators, and they have a job, and if they don't come up with new laws, it's like they don't have a job. So there's almost an incentive to constantly try to come up with new laws. And sometimes I think it just gets a little ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of the laws that are in place are there to protect stupid people from each other, which there are plenty of.
Yeah, and a lot of laws are in place to also make people richer. That it all depends on who's lobbying, and it's kind of wild, like being in Florida, the whole Python thing, and how fixated people are on the pythons, but they don't care at all about the sugarcane fields or the gopher tortoise burrows being paved over, or the constant development that is happening in the state right now. People don't care about that, but they do care about the pythons that are in a very specific area of the state, and we should be, right. But it's a problem, but it's not the problem. Like there's other huge problems we're facing here in this state.
Yeah, I think it just depends on where the emotions are in the majority. Yeah, that's kind of what it comes down to. It seems, especially with the Python thing that you're talking about, is you get that headline up there, majority of people are afraid of snakes. You paint them in a bad light where they're, ruining the environment. Easy for the majority to get on board and be like, yeah, we got to stop that. Whereas it might not be so easy for the majority to get on board with not going over tortoise burrows in place of, homes for people. So
yeah. It's a tough one. It is a tough one. We had a lot of people come here during COVID times because they didn't want to be told what to do in their home state, and it kind of caused an explosion of the population here in the state. And people got to live somewhere now.
Yeah, hopefully don't. My dad has this funny saying that people say, when they go to a place, like people will go to a place because, oh, it's cool, it's nice here, and then I'm forgetting exactly what the phrase is, but it's like, Oh yeah, nobody goes there anymore. There's too many people.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's very true. And, it's just another issue that we have. I mean, I'm born and raised here, and it's really depressing watching giant swaths of land just get leveled and just turn into barren wastelands of condos. It's absolutely bananas. Huge acres upon acres of pine trees that I've driven past for 35 years, 36 years, and all of a sudden now it's just a giant pile of dirt and they're putting pipes in the ground. And yeah, it's really wild.
Yeah, it happens everywhere. I mean, I've watched it happen in my hometown. It's our species is growing, not shrinking. And we live in houses and not in tents made out of animal skin, which there's part of me that is funny when we go camping and we're like, we're on vacation. We're like, oh, wouldn't it be nice to do this all the time? It's like,
yeah,
would it? I mean, because we did for many parts of human history. We lived like that, but we're like this species that wants to always progress, and progress looks like bigger house or more technology or whatever it looks like, which is not camping essentially.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
My dad has another joke. He's like people that freak out about, oh, what if if we had a grid shutdown, we had no more internet, no more electricity, and all that got wiped out, what would people do? And he's like, oh, you mean like live like our great grandparents? Like,
yeah, live like people did for hundreds of millennia.
Yeah. And I don't get me wrong, I love some comfort and I love some technology. I love being able to talk to you across the country and like put it out there and hopefully inspire somebody to do something good with whatever we share. But I definitely, there's a part of my soul that pines for simpler times that maybe I didn't even live in. I am grateful for the fact that I got to watch the advent of the internet and know what the world was like before it. There's, like I said, for that, but also like a part that I didn't even live in, like, and it comes with it's a balance, I guess, because it comes with its own struggles. Like, oh man, how cool it would be to live in simpler times. Like, how cool is it that I don't have to like go out and hunt for fresh water every morning and like find a way to store it?
Yeah,
that's kind of nice.
Dude, I tried breeding rabbits for meat, and I did my first culling. And I was like, yep, I'm done packing it in, selling the whole operation. This is too dark. And it's pretty wild how much shit I got from people I told that I was doing that all consume meat. And it's like, look, I'm just trying to do this literally carbon neutral, like not literally carbon neutral, but as close to carbon neutral as you can, because it's all on my property. There's no trucking, there's no transportation. I'm doing the slaughtering. There's no facilities. There's nothing, right? Like it's me and my cages and my rabbits, and I feed them. And I was trying to do something positive, and I did it. But when I was done, I was like, that was so much effort and pain that went into that experience. And just raising the rabbits and getting them to breed and then having the babies survive and grow them up. Like it took so much effort, and it's like, this is what everybody did 120 years ago, 130 years ago. Everybody did this. Everybody, I know that I had a great grandmother that would slaughter chickens and all this other stuff, and it's like, but we're just so disconnected from that now. It's wild.
You reminded me of this viral video from many years back where there's like a guy driving back to his house, or I don't know where he was driving to or from, but he had a deer on his car, and this like family stops him in the road. His dad stops him in the road with his kids, and like this guy's kids like throwing stuff at the guy's car, and they're like calling him names, just cussing him out, and like, how could he possibly do that? And then one of the things the guy says is like, why don't you just get your meat from the store like everybody else? Like, oh, bro. It's like, wow, man. Yeah. What a time.
It's so crazy. I mean, and like, and not everybody can hunt, right? Like if everybody hunted, we would probably have ecological collapse. And it's kind of crazy that fishing is one of the things where you can still buy wild caught fish from a supermarket, but you can't get wild caught or wild sourced meat from the supermarket, because it would cause collapse. And yet we're being told that the oceans are being overfished and that there's not enough fish out there, but there's still commercial fishermen that are running nets. And I mean, even, like my most conservative friends that are into fishing are like, I do catch and release, and we shouldn't be, like we're catching way too much fish. And, it's really interesting thinking of it from that perspective, that if we were to harvest, venison, right, you would cause total collapse if it was all going into the supermarkets. But with fish, we still do it.
Interesting. There's definitely plenty of venison running around here.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some areas where you could get away with it.
Yeah. I saw so many deer. I went for a little walk before we jumped on here, and I saw so many deer. It was ridiculous.
We don't have a ton here in Florida, unfortunately. There's certain areas where there's more, but yeah, we don't have a ton where I'm at. So how did you get into reptiles? How did you get so obsessed with them? And also, do you still keep blood pythons?
Yeah, I've got a couple blood pythons right here, or 3. I've got 3 blood pythons in here.
Awesome, man. Because I remember when I first started getting into bloods, I was watching all your videos on blood pythons. I think I saw Matt Minatola's collection tour on Dave's channel, and I think I remember watching Rob Christian do his kind of tutorials, and those are like burned in my memory. Great content. They're such cool animals.
Yeah.
Anyway, I totally derailed you.
No, they are. I could go full blood python. I would be totally happy going just full blood python mode. I've thought about that because they are super cool. I remember the first one I got. She's still sitting right here. They're so cool. They're especially when you get them to, I mean, just like any species when they're first being established in captivity, more normalized, like, they got a bad rap because they freak out and strike or whatever, and they hit with a lot of power, throw their whole body into it, and they could just kind of like hit you sideways. But if you just take them, I mean, that's how she was when she was a baby. She was just striking everything. I've got video of her, like it was in my very first videos. She was part of the intro, just a slow motion strike. And she would just strike at anything that got within a certain distance and throw her whole body into it like blood pythons do. But after a little bit of handling and getting her used to it, she's just like calm, and I could just like hold her. Anybody could hold her, and she's so big, and like I just like the way that they're so awkward to hold, because it's not like most other pythons where there's semi-arboreal or even slightly where they can like hang on. You can't put a blood python around your neck and let it sit there even or anywhere. You have to like hold it. It's like it has to be held like a baby, otherwise it's going to hit the ground. There's something about that I love. But snakes, first getting into reptiles, I was 4 when I first got really excited about dinosaurs. Some of my earliest memories, like my mom made me a dinosaur costume for Halloween, like hand sewed it. It was pretty cool. I had a tail and everything. And I have like dinosaur bed sheets, dinosaur themed birthday parties, all that type of stuff. And we're living in Hayward, California at this apartment complex. And one day we're sitting in the backyard and this California king snake came crawling through the grass. I didn't know what type of snake it was. My dad did. And we checked it out, and he identified as non-venomous. So we started playing with it and picking it up and checking it out. And just thought it was a wild snake because that's a native snake. But it turned out to be the neighbor's escaped pet snake.
Oh.
And our neighbor was this dude. He was like a Hell's Angel, I'm pretty sure. His name was Snake. Like that's the only name I ever knew him as, was Snake. And he was our neighbor next door. And we took him his snake back, and his living room looked like probably most people's reptile room. That was this guy's living room. And I saw it at 4 years old. I was like, what is this?
Wow.
Why doesn't our house look like this? And my dad was cool enough to get me my first pet snake at 4 years old.
Wow.
I basically had snakes my entire, with the exception of the hiatus in Hawaii for a decade. I've had snakes my whole life from that age.
You can't keep anything in Hawaii, right?
Not legally.
Wow. Do they have them over there though?
I've seen a couple. Yeah.
Yeah, I figured.
Yeah, you can get big trouble though.
Sure.
Yeah.
But there's people keeping boas and like ball pythons in Australia too. They just don't,
Right.
It's out there.
Totally.
I was actually just talking to Dr. Kevin Messenger, and he said that there's people keeping ball pythons in China, and it's, not allowed at all, but they're doing it like on the DL. And once it gets legalized, they're going to provide all the animals for the market, which is like pretty wild, to be keeping snakes illegally.
Yeah, that's trying to think of the number of things that I've seen people illegally do. It is a long list.
Oh, I bet. Yeah. Is that a retic to your right?
It is. Yeah, that's Halo. That's
that looks like a big ass snake, man.
She's not small. I could take her out if you want.
No, leave her in there.
All right.
I've seen retics come out of cages. She's gonna take over.
I mean, she's one of the most chill snakes. Like, that snake has changed so many people's minds about snakes. It's been really awesome to watch. So that's some of my favorite moments with snakes, is to watch somebody go from either terrified or like even hate, which is, a little more rare, but still happens.
Yeah.
To, oh, this is not what I thought it was. And then like have a total change of heart. One of my favorite moments of that was this teacher at one of the schools. There was a period of time where I was going to a lot of schools and libraries in a short time span, where I was going like multiple days a week or multiple shows a day. And somewhere out in the Central Valley, this one school, and I was doing, every now and then I do a whole like school at the same time. Like, all the grades would pile into the auditorium, and we'd do the entire school at once. And this was one of those shows. And it was a teacher that was there before all the kids came, and she saw me. She's like, "Are you the snake guy?" I was like, "Yep." And she said, "Okay, I'm leaving and I'm not coming back until you're gone." I was like, "Yeah, hi to you too." But then I saw it towards the end of the program, before the kids I saw her peeking her head around the corner. I was like, "Hey, what little mental note, I was like, I see you peeking in the door. Like, I'm not gone. You're back." And so I like called her over. It's like, "Come back in. You said you said you weren't going to see, or you told me I wasn't going to see you again." And she came in, and like, before you know it, like, I'm just kind of showing her, here's why you're just ignorant and you don't know what you're talking about when you say that, whatever you said to me. And in a nice way, obviously, people here, they're ignorant. They don't necessarily take that the right way, but it just means you don't know. You just didn't, you didn't know about this yet. And before I leave, she's holding that snake by herself, and I'm taking pictures of her with it.
Wow.
And I just love, and that happened a lot, but for some reason, the way that she approached me, like the first interaction was I could never repeat exactly the way she said, but the way she said it was just like so disrespectful. and to leave with the opposite, where she's like holding it like, and just like, "Oh, wow, this is the coolest thing I've ever done." I was like, "Oh, I love that turnover from your first approach to now we're leaving," and you're so excited about it. So, and that snake has done that with lots of people.
That's so cool.
So if I ever go down to just one snake, it's going to be her. I can tell you that for sure. I mean, she's named after my wife, so.
Oh, wow. And your wife's cool with that?
Yeah. It's her nickname from high school, but okay. But yeah, she was cool. I had named one of my snakes after her grandma too.
Oh, wow.
And my grandma and my grandma's daughter, my wife's mom, was cool with that too.
So you're 4 years old and you get your first king snake, and then how did your collection grow?
Well, I didn't get a king snake. The king snake was the one crawling through the yard.
Oh yeah.
What I ended up getting was a rough green snake.
Oh, okay.
which probably wasn't the best choice, but we didn't know that at the time.
Yeah. Did it make it?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. It crickets, crickets, like, it seemed that the crickets ate it. That's what it looked like.
Oh my word.
I don't know if that's actually what happened, but that's what it looked like.
Jeez. Okay, so how did you overcome that?
Well, I think my dad did a little bit more research into what would be actually a good snake. The cool thing is that, okay, well, we can get to that a little bit later. But anyway, he got that first snake and then the next snake from this place in the East Bay called the East Bay Vivarium.
Yeah.
It was in Oakland at one point, and now it's in Berkeley. And that apparently is the oldest reptile shop in the country.
Wow.
And so that was kind of cool. I remember we used to go there like on the weekends and just like nerd out. There's this dude there named Spike. He had like all this multicolored, like, sometimes he'd have a big old mohawk, but sometimes he had like all kinds of different colored spiked hair coming out of his head, like extreme spikes, like a literal looks like a spike ball. Like his head was just like multicolored spikes. So cool. As a kid, like going to the reptile shop, seeing this guy carrying around an iguana, it's just like, whoa, this place is awesome. And so I got that. The next snake, I wanted a corn snake. Like that was, I saw pictures of different snakes and like I really wanted a corn snake. I loved the color and pattern, and then like the black and white checkered belly, like that just was really appealing to me. My dad came home with a rosy rat snake. Like he literally saw a corn snake and then chose not to get me the snake that I wanted and got something else, which was similar. It had similar pattern. The rosy rat snake had similar patterning to a corn snake, obviously closely related to a corn snake, being a colubrid. Yeah. And I had that snake for about 20 years.
Wow.
And it was I had a Desert King snake for a little bit too. I don't know if that one escaped. That rat snake escaped often. Like we kept it in this aquarium and didn't realize that, like, for a while, I somehow didn't realize that the hole where, like you put the filter in for the aquarium was a spot where it could get out. And we'd get out all the time. And we'd always find it, be in my room somewhere. But it literally, like most of my life, that snake escaped the enclosure. We'd like get a regular screen top lid, have like books on top of it, which obviously doesn't work either because I'll just push it out. But my mom found that snake so many times, dude. It's like so dumb how many times that snake escaped over the course of my entire childhood into adulthood, and how many times.
What was up with our parents, man? Because I had similar situations.
I don't know. I have no idea. Like it just boggles my mind how many times that snake escaped and how many times we got it back. It doesn't seem possible. Thinking back, it's like, there's no way that snake could have gotten out that many times and we always found it and kept getting it back. It was like a regular occurrence, which seems so stupid.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember my brother having like a hamster, and that little bastard was out free ranging most of the time, where it'd be like, yep, he's gone again, And then all of a sudden, he's behind the refrigerator.
That's the thing. They don't really go too far. Just try to find a nice little spot. I remember one time we had some mice or rats that, were supposed to eventually feed to the snake, but it was escaped and didn't know where it was. So we just put the rats into the snake's enclosure. And then after a week or so, the snake had climbed back in the enclosure and eaten all the rats and was just sitting there all fat.
Oh my word. That's incredible.
That was pretty cool. I was like, it's back.
Yeah. Dude, I remember having firebelly newts as a kid. And same thing. I kept them in an aquarium, and there's the hole for the filter, and they were coming out and like just falling onto the floor and desiccating, right? And I remember my parents replaced them, and then I would wake up and like sleepwalk, like screaming that the newts were out. And like I had like PTSD from the newts dying, so like I was always terrified. Instead of just getting the right enclosure set up, it was like, we'll just replace, just keep putting them back in and let them keep getting out.
Yeah. I don't know what the mindset was there. It's like, it's back. Let's put it back in the thing it escaped from.
Yeah. Make 0 alterations. Add one more book to the top. That's what it needs. So, what did you end up getting after that snake?
That was the only snake I had. Like I mentioned towards the beginning, think about get back to one snake. I only had that snake for the majority of my life. I didn't keep multiple snakes. I had a Desert King for a little bit, like I mentioned. I think that was one that escaped and didn't find its way back. But just that rosy rat snake from the age of 7 till I was in my mid-20s.
Wow.
Had that one snake. And then I moved to Hawaii to join a band and did that for 10 years.
Wow.
And then I moved back after we had our first kid. And I met my wife out there, and we were together for like, let's see, we met in like 2008, and we moved back in 2014. So 6 years of my life, and her entire life with me, there's no snakes involved. And we moved back here, and like first thing I'm like, ooh, I'm going to get a snake. And she's like, what? Why? I was like, because why wouldn't you have a snake? The only reason I didn't have a snake because I was living in Hawaii and it couldn't have. So we get back, and luckily she ended up being cool with it eventually, because she had nightmares growing up as a kid of snakes and like worms, and they were terrifying to her. But now she like holds big snakes and stuff. She's cool now. But I remember, but I went and got my first snake back here from the East Bay Vivarium, where I got my first snake as a kid. So my first snake getting back here and moving back, I was like, well, I know where to go to get a snake. We're going to the East Bay Vivarium. That's where you get snakes. And so we went there, and that's when I started diving into YouTube was now a thing. And I'm like watching these videos. I remember Mike Wilbanks and Dave Kaufman and Kevin McCurley's channel. And of course, Brian in Snake Bites TV. Started binge watching all those videos and like learning about ball pythons and all different morphs there were and all that. And so I went to the East Bay Vivarium thinking, oh, I want to get a piebald ball python. That thing looks incredible. And they were still like, I think $1,000 to $1,200 at the time. And I was like, well, dang it. I don't think I'm getting a piebald ball python.
Yeah.
But I did I got a hypo pinstripe, or ghost pinstripe as they called it there. And yeah, that was the first snake. And then I got a coral glow ball python at a show in Tracy. So I had 2 snakes for a while. And then I read about Freedom Breeder in a book. And anyway, that's a whole fun story. This is the Freedom Breeder adventure.
Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Okay, so let's see. I got the first snake, and I got the second snake. At some point, I met Brian Gundy before the second snake, because I got the hypo pinstripe. I'm looking up here because he's right there. But I got him, and then I started looking at the banana ball pythons. Brian Gundy is one of the guys that would put his phone number on YouTube. The only guy. I said one of the guys. I guess I'm the second guy now. But I was watching one of his videos. And he's like, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, if you want to talk about blah, he just put his phone number. I was like, bro, this guy just put his phone number out on the internet? And so I was like, no shit. So I dialed up. I was like, hi, this is Brian. I was like, no way. I was just watching you on YouTube, but I'm talking to you on the phone. And I was finding out, talking with him about this and that. And I talked to him about Brian because I saw like Brian Barczyk had gone out to Brian Gundy's place one time and done a video with him out there. And so I was talking with him about that. And like, he just said what a cool guy Brian was. And I was like, oh, that's cool to hear. And like talking about this and that. And he basically said it would be cool if I came over to check out his place. I was like, sweet.
Wow.
And so I ended up going, he was close. I was living with my folks when we moved back from the Bay, from Hawaii. We were living up there in the Bay again. And he's not too far from there. He's like, close to San Jose. So I drove over there one day, checked out his snakes, and like just hung out with him. Super good. Brian Gundy, dude, that guy is like one of, I couldn't even aspire to be like him when I get older. He's just too cool. He's just one of the nicest guys, man. Does such a great job teaching about snakes with the kids. Diehard herper. You go out herping with that guy. I mean, he's like not walking as well as he used to, but he will still dive headfirst into a bush of poison oak to just grab a common alligator lizard. Like, dude, are you gonna be okay? He's like, yeah, I'll rinse off when I get home. I'll be fine.
Jeez.
Yeah, but anyway, so I bring him up and that because I remember I saw him again at that. I went with my one of my best friends to his reptile show in Tracy. First reptile show I ever went to is this little, it's like they're holding the Tracy Mall. It was like a little reptile shop in the mall, and they just like cordoned off a little section of the mall, which was like literally one little like circle of tables inside this little indentation in the mall. And Brian was there. Brian was at that show vending, and there was this other guy, TJ, from 29 Snakes. He had this thing called 29 Snakes because he had like inherited 29 snakes from somebody, and now he was breeding. And I wanted a banana ball python, and he had a coral glow ball python, which at the time I didn't know. He didn't even know. I was like, well, I was looking for banana. He's like, I think they're the same thing. I think, which they are. I know now, of course. It's just two different names for the same morph. But he was like, I'm pretty sure that coral glow is the same as banana. Like everything I've researched, I was like, all right, it definitely looks the same. And so I got that snake. That was my second snake when I moved back. And then from there, I was just diving headfirst and everything, reading books and watching all the YouTube videos. And one of these books was this big, thick book, like that big, that Kevin McCurley wrote on all the different ball python morphs at the time, and like talked about the coral glow a lot and like all the genetic abnormalities with it, like the whole sex link traits and all that, and super cool stuff. And in the book, he mentions the freedom breeder enclosures and Lindy Johnson and the guy that made them, and like some stories about how he and Lindy had partnered on, bringing some of these ball pythons from Africa and all this stuff. And so like, all right, freedom breeder enclosures. So I just like looked it up online, found one, and found the website, and I was like, okay, I can get that. Actually, the enclosure that I just sold to Riley a couple days ago, I bought it, and I was like, okay, I'll get that. Boom, order it, put in the stuff, like sweet. And then I get a phone call either that day or the next day from Jeff, one of Lindy's sons, who used to run the company. And he's just basically trying to walk through the shipping process. I didn't know. I'd never bought any of this stuff before. And this is like standard practice, I guess, for those companies, because it's a big piece of equipment. They don't just like ship it via Amazon shipping or whatever to you. So you have to work out the freight costs and like talk about that. And so that's what he was calling me for, to figure out the stuff. And he's like looking at my address and where I was at. He's like, okay, based on where you're at, he's like, I just have my dad drop it off on his way home from work, and it would save you on shipping. I was like, oh yeah, let's save on that shipping and have your dad drop it off on the way home from work. Which sounded a little crazy. I was like, but I guess I didn't know where they were. It just so happened that I was staying in Livermore, which is literally right off the freeway on Lindy's route going back from the shop back to his house in Danville. And it didn't work out that was going to happen, because I was at my grandma's for like some kind of dinner or something. So I was like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be home at that time. But he's like, all right, it's all right. You just like come up to my place in Danville afterwards and pick it up. And I was like, sweet, because Danville's like, I don't know, 25 minutes from where I was. So I drove up there, and it was just kind of surreal, because I was just reading about this guy in a book, and now I'm standing in his driveway picking up this enclosure from him, and he starts telling me all the stories about him and Kevin and like how they named all the different morphs of ball python coming in. Like he's like, yeah, we were standing right here when we named the spider ball python or whatever. It's like, this is so weird. I just ordered a rack on the internet. Now I'm standing in the driveway with the guy who I was reading about in a book like last week, and then ended up going out to their facility and picked up like 4 more snakes, because I had this enclosure that you can fit 10. I always have this joke, like you either have 1 snake, 2 snakes, or 10 snakes. Nobody has 7. And so I went out there to their facility, and it was like wild. I walked in, it was like just freedom breeder racks wall to wall, because it's freedom breeder, and all these snakes. And it was just like this wild experience. And I think I left my wallet there accidentally. I had to go back and get it like the next day. And I didn't know that years after that, a couple of years after that, I actually would be working with them and producing their YouTube channel, all this stuff.
Wow.
So that happened too. And that was a wild ride as well.
Man, that's nuts. So what happened after that? I mean, how did you end up starting the YouTube channel and making reptile focused content?
Well, I was, like I said, definitely big inspiration from Brian and all the other guys on YouTube. Was like, well, they're just recording stuff and uploading it, and I could do that. I had learned about cameras still in Hawaii. I took like a beginner photography course after we went to the Philippines to visit my uncle on a part of our honeymoon. He was doing like um, DSLR photography. And so he kind of taught me, showed me some of the stuff of like, here's how I take these pictures. He does like spelunking for the government and like documents all these caves out in the Philippines. So he'll go in there and like set up flash in a different spot and like literally mapping caves for the government. And so I learned photography from him a little bit, but then took the class in Hawaii, learned all about, aperture and shutter speeds and just how a camera works and how to operate it, and bought a DSLR and was practicing. I would take still photography and landscape shots and sell my photography at Aloha Marketplace down by the stadium. And so I had some camera knowledge. I knew how a camera worked and how to operate it. And that the video was like kind of a next step. I just like bought this GoPro, and GoPro had their proprietary editing software that you could use. So I'd like film this video of us just going to the lake with my sister and Noah and my family, and just like walking around the lake. And I like nerded out for days editing all the clips from this little trip to the lake with this song that my wife still laughs about to this day. She was just thought it was so hilarious. There's this moment in the song where it's just building. The song's building, and it just goes to this like epic peak of the song. And the coolest shot that I thought I had from that day was when the GoPro goes underwater, because it's like, this is awesome. I'm filming, and now we're filming underwater, but the lake is not like it's just like a gravel pit lake. So like the water is literally just like black pieces of algae and like muck under the water. You get this epic part of the song. It's like, and we're in the swamp underwater. And it just doesn't look like anything. But I thought, to me, that was the pinnacle moment. It's like, camera's going underwater. How cool is that? And looking back in hindsight, is like, yeah, I would never do that today. I would never edit that and maybe coming out of the water to like the awesomeness that's out there. But anyway, I edited that, and I was like, okay, I can edit a video. And those were my first couple of videos on YouTube, where I just had a GoPro strapped to my head. I was unboxing snakes, and I just made one of those videos, uploaded to YouTube, and I started getting way into nerding out on the editing and like putting in titles and music and themes. And I basically like plagiarized snake bites for a few episodes. Just like they had like the questions of the day or questions of the week, and like these different sections. I wrote my own music, like I recorded my own music to go with these sections and stuff. And I just started doing that. And then there was like a community on YouTube that was really cool. Like one of the first people or second people ever to comment on one of my videos still comments on my videos to this day, like every video. Met him in person now, of course. And like, we have like a kind of very, like we talk on the phone, like there's just this community out there that I found because of putting out YouTube videos. And it was just really cool, because my whole life, I was just one kid with snakes. And, I think maybe one other time I met another kid that had a snake, maybe. And that this was just different. And then the next time I'm going to the Reptile Super Show and like meeting all the people that I've been watching on YouTube. And like I said, literally Brian was like my inspiration to get started. And now I'm like going on trips out of the country to go find reptiles all over the place with the guy that I've been binge watching on YouTube. So it was kind of wild.
It really is.
Yeah. And I met one of my best friends in the hobby, Garrett, Reach Out Reptiles, was there in Tinley the first time I went. And it was kind of like God's plan that we met. And it was like, I was like forced into a meeting. There's a guy named Tim O'Reilly. If you ever get a chance to have him on here, that is one of the cool, you might not. Maybe with a word from me, he would be willing to do it. This guy, I think I've only ever done one video with me. He's basically like the head breeder at Prehistoric Pets, or like the guy that maintains the animals, but just super, super chill guy, especially compared to Jay. Like, you go to Prehistoric Pets and like Jay's just like, ah! And Tim's just like, Tim is like, there's an actor that he reminds me of that plays the chill dude. He's literally the guy that calls the other guy the dude in the Big Lebowski.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Like the cowboy dude, big old mustache. Yeah. Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
Tim is like that. Just super laid back. He's like, hey Brian, how you doing today? He's like, are you filming today? Like, yeah, Tim, I'm gonna film. I did an interview with him. It was one of the first interviews on the Triple B TV channel was with Tim. And I just loved the way, like, his whole approach to everything. He was one of the first guys to breed chameleons in captivity. And he, like, his whole idea about the internet, he had this thing where he's like, I just don't understand why you would want to go on the internet and be negative. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why would you do that? And and I just love him. But so I was there. It was that time I was there with Brian that when he invited me to stay in his hotel room and they're having that party. And Tim found out I was going to Tinley, and Garrett used to work at Prehistoric Pets. He was their sales manager like way back in the day.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so Tim is like, like I said, he found out, oh, you're going to Tinley? He's like, you know what? There's a guy named Garrett who's going to be in Tinley. It's like, I think you should meet that guy. I think you guys would get along. I was like, okay, cool. I had never been there. I didn't know, I was kind of like, sure. All right, cool, Tim. And Tim, the most chill guy that I've ever known, super laid back and never going to like be pushy about anything, all of a sudden became one of the most pushy people I ever met about this guy, Garrett. He like walked me over, showed me his pictures, like pointed out, there's this picture of all the employees standing out front holding the Twinkie. He's like, that's Garrett right there. But make sure you meet him. And then he made me pull my phone out, find Garrett on Facebook, and he stood over my shoulder while I sent him a message. He's like, go find him. There he is right there. Send him a message right now and tell him that Tim O'Reilly said you guys got to meet in Tinley. I was like, are you serious, bro? Okay. He's like, watching. He like wouldn't leave me alone. I had to type out the message and show him that I sent it to this guy I'd never met. Jeez. And I was like, all right, Tim, super laid back guy, all of a sudden the most pushy guy on the planet. And so Garrett just replied back as well. He's like, well, if Tim said so, I guess we got to meet.
Wow.
And so I met Garrett there at that first Tinley show. And Tim was right, of course. It's like one of my best friends still in the hobby to this day. I'm actually going to go out to the Retech Fest at the end of next month and, go herping for hellbenders out there and stuff and do Retech Fest.
Oh, nice.
That should be super cool. I've always wanted to see a hellbender. But I brought Garrett into the story because he's important to my story in this, especially for one of these reasons, which is that we're at that show and he like linked. I had been to Freedom Breeder already multiple times. I'd gone out there and like done this and that, but Garrett has like this mind of like putting people together and getting these things happening. And he pitched Freedom Breeder sponsoring me to Freedom Breeder. And they became my first and only sponsor for years. Because Garrett told Lindy, he's like, you got to do this. Like, there's no reason not to. Like, this is the perfect match. And I ended up working with them for years. That was wild.
Yeah, man. Isn't that incredible when people go out of their way, dude? Like, just coming back to kindness again. It's like when people go out of their way to set something up like that, and it doesn't benefit them in any way, shape, or form. But it's like they just do something out of the kindness of their heart to make that connection and get you a sponsorship that I'm assuming altered your life, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's super cool. So what happened after that?
I started breeding snakes somewhere in there at the same. I guess I was breeding snakes first. Before that sponsorship, let's see, because that happened in 2018. I produced first clutch in 2015. Just breeding snakes, traveling to shows. Ended up producing the Freedom Breeder channel for many years. Jesse's not there anymore, so with that when Jesse and I became really close, but he doesn't work at Freedom Breeder any longer, even though he was like, the son that was maybe going to take it over. But now Julie runs it and she's doing a good job, I think. And Tyler's there. So that was years down the road though. That was just a few years ago or a couple years ago now. I stopped doing that and I started working with Redline a bit and Morph Market for a short stint and Palm Street for a very short stint. And right now I have I've got Frostbite Feeders, which are doing some pretty cool things. With their plans for what they're doing with rodent production. And so I'm working with those guys a little bit. And there's a couple others on the table. But that was a long stint. That was like from not being in the reptile hobby to, like I said, in 2018 to just like the other year working with Freedom Breeder. That was a big part. I would go out there once a month to record some content, and then we could go to shows together. Still doing stuff with Garrett, still doing stuff with Dave. There was other trips that happened. Now with as many kids as I have, Dave's invited me so many times. He's almost stopped. He just says, listen, you have an open invite to anything I'm doing. I know you're just going to say no. So I'm going to stop inviting you to every trip. I was like, dude, I want to go. Like we were supposed to go back to Australia or some other trip. And Hillary was pregnant with our fourth kid. I was like, dude, I can't go. Like I could go, but I would be super irresponsible of me as a person and a father and a husband to like go. So fortunately we get to meet up at different shows and stuff that I'm doing with All American. Oh, that's I guess part of the next big thing. Like End of Freedom Breeder was somehow right about the beginning of the All American Reptile and Plant Expo. They just put on their first show. No way that was last year, right? No chance. Was that last year? Because that seems like a crazy timeline if that's the case. Was it? That's wild. Is that
How long have you been? You were affiliated with Redline for a long time, right?
Yeah, I mean, we actually rebranded Triple B TV to Redline Report. Robin was one of the first pieces of content that I had go viral was because Robin shared it on Redline on Reptile Report. I had this video of this retic shedding, and I did it like time lapse to like dubstep music and like was speeding it up and slowing it down. And Robin told me later, he's like, yeah, as soon as I saw it, I knew if I shared it, it would go viral, which was true. And he had known about me before because Brian recommended. They used to have these things called the Reptile Report Awards, and they send out plaques to like best YouTube channel of the year or best, reptile breeder of the year for this species, or they had all these different awards they would do that they stopped doing because it started becoming such a like I don't know, like people were like, well, why didn't I win? Like so they stopped
because you're not good enough.
But I won one year for best video channel of the year or whatever. And I'm almost sure it was because of Brian's recommendation to Robin. Because Brian and Robin were really close. And so there was that connection, and then the first piece of content, and then I think Ship Your Reptiles and Redline Report and Redline both like approached me right about the same time about sponsorship, which has been my fortunate journey through this, is that I've never reached out to anybody about sponsorship. I've just been contacted. And Freedom Breeder took such good care of me. I was like, why would I accept another sponsor? Like I don't want to mess up this thing with Freedom Breeder, and I don't want to be disrespectful. It's like, so I did receive many offers, which was cool, about sponsorship. Somebody comes to reach out, hey, we'd like to sponsor. I was like, oh no, sorry, I got my sponsor. Like I turned down so many companies over there. Morph Market was actually the first one that I thought that I considered when that one was asked. And that was John. I don't know if you know John, was the owner of Morph Market.
No, I don't know John.
Okay, so John founded Morph Market, and I interviewed him one time at Tinley, and he was like, I'd love to sponsor what you do at some point. And I really liked John. He was such a chill guy, like such a cool guy, such a nice guy. And so when he said that, I was like, I didn't say immediately no, which is what I said to everybody else. I was like, nah, thanks, but it's not happening. I was like, all right, let me think about it. And then so I went and talked to Jesse a couple months later. I was like, hey, John at Morph Market just wanted to sponsor. I was like, I want to talk to you about it first. Obviously, like I've known Freedom Breeder's been my only sponsor for however many years. So I was like, but it could be definitely helpful for the family and this and that. And I think it could be complimentary, even that it could work.
Sure.
And Jesse was like, yeah, dude, go for it. I was like, all right, if I got your blessing, I'll go for it. So I did that. And then it was in that portion that John ended up selling the company. And that got a little bit different for me, not having John in there. So there's that. And then
How so?
I mean, just Darian's just a different guy. He's just not John.
Sure.
He's just a different guy.
Just a different relationship.
Yeah, just a different relationship. And that's what they've always been like for me. And I've never had any bad things with Darian. I think maybe some of my choices as far as other sponsors that I had come in were part of it, but I've never had any ill things with Darian personally. But it was just different. Like John was easy for me, It's just, we kind of saw, I think it's just a different person. And it's all relationships for me. It's not, that's more important than any of the other stuff, like obviously what your company does is important to me. But the relationships are even more important than that. So, and I think it just wasn't that same easy connection, it's probably to make it plain and simple.
Yeah.
But then right in that same time, there was Redline Shipping and Ship Your Reptiles both approached me, and I was talking with John first a little bit. I was like, "What do you think about it, John? Like, Redline, Ship Your Reptiles," and I love Susie, and Susie was working with Ship Your Reptiles at the time, and Garrett was sponsored by Ship Your Reptiles, so I was talking with him about it too. And then I think I surprised the hell out of Garrett when I came back and like went with Redline. It's not like I pitted them against each other. I didn't want to do that. I wasn't like, well, who's gonna pay me more? I just kind of went more with like, well, what makes sense? I talked to Susie, I talked to Robin. I just really liked the things that Robin said, and it ended up being more of like a relationship thing. And I found out that we had this shared history in Hawaii, and like all that other stuff I'd mentioned with the content sharing and like these different connections that he and I had beforehand. And then I think I'd interviewed him at one point, Robin, before I even knew that there was going to be any type of sponsorship thing. And I stopped uploading Triple BT for a while and just was doing to my personal YouTube channel, the Brian Kusko channel, and mostly took a hiatus from Triple BTV for whatever reason. And when I was in this consideration process, I went back to look at Triple BTV because we talked about one of the things could be potentially be like, we'll rebrand that channel that's been doing nothing to Redline Report because it already has a bunch of subscribers, and was there for interviews like the one we're doing right here. Yeah. And I looked back, and the last video on that channel from like a year ago was Robin. And he was literally the last person I interviewed, and it published on the channel since, and there had been nothing else since then. I was like, oh man, this is clearly the right choice. Like, this is the last guy I interviewed, and we've got all these connections, and I think it was the right move even today, even though, it's gone. Redline has struggled with the different advents of different shipping companies coming in, and just the way that the whole landscape has changed with that. But I remained friends with Robin despite that. I even still have they haven't officially sponsored me for, a long time now, but I still keep the banner up just because, I just love Robin as a person. And I don't even know if he's going to be officially part of Redline anymore. I think the company might still keep going even without him, and he might start doing other stuff. But I love that guy, and so I don't think I'll ever take the banner down unless Redline actually stops being a company, or whenever I feel like it. I guess I could, but just too much respect for the guy to just pull it down just because they're not a sponsor. So
that's cool.
Yeah. But that also led to, it was at one of the Tinley shows. I don't know if you know Troy Schroeder or Nick Sloan.
Not personally, no.
Okay. But they both came up, and we did an interview about the show that their shows they're going to start putting on at the last Tinley, one of the Tinleys I went to, which that was a fun little season too. I was setting up my interview station right there at the entrance of Tinley. Like, we have the check-in booth and me right there. And Redline Report we were filming it while I had so many fun things. Like one of the shows that Kevin McCurley came to, he's like, he just loves to try and mess with me. Like, while I'm trying to do an interview, get off to the side. Like, eventually I just pumped, let's just, Kevin, just come sit down. And let's make fun of me for a while. And those are some of my favorite ones. Kevin's such a character. I need to call him about Retic Fest. Those guys came over, and Nick said that he was walking out of church one day, and that he felt the Lord put on his heart to reach out to me about being a part of the All American shows, as well as facilitating church service on Sundays at the show. And that was, at that point in my life, like, I was like, well, then it's an obvious yes. And still is every day. And obviously, yes, I didn't have any kind of faith per se until just a few years ago. And so that was a big pivotal moment in life, obviously. And then when Nick came with that, I was like, okay, well, there's no way I'm saying no to that. And it's been so much fun. I've been to pretty much every show that they've put on since then. And I'm trying to remember if it's only been just a little over a year, that would be crazy, because my brain is trying to tell me that it's been way longer than that.
How many shows do you go to a year?
Right now I'm just going to the All-American shows because that's about all that I can. They have enough shows. That's about all I can fit into my schedule.
Yeah.
But they put on this year, they're doing 10 shows.
Wow. And most of those you have to travel for, right?
Well, all of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is great because one of my favorite things like has been the people that I've gotten to meet and the in-person experiences that I get to have with these folks. That has been like, that's what really ended up sucking me in completely. Was like, once I got, whether it was meeting Brian or either of the Brians, Gundy or Barchek or Lindy or all the guys at Freedom Breeder, all the people that I'd like watched online and then got to meet them in person and then got to have these moments at all the shows. Like we would just have the best time. It's just like family, you know, you get together and it's just like having this, it's like the reptile shows are just a whole long party sometimes to my detriment. Cause I would stay up till like 3 or 4 in the morning, like hanging out with everybody. And then like, I remember one time, I think it was even closer to 5. Like, I would make it a point to shut the lobby down at the hotel. And then I was there with Freedom Breeder, so we were getting up early-ish to get the show going, and help like actually participate in the daytime part of the show. So I remember there'd be so many times that like 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, going to sleep, wake up 2 hours later, just hit some push-ups, and like, all right, let's do it. And I'm so glad that's not the case anymore. Like, that is not how I approach a reptile show any longer. But man, there was a wild time where it's just like party and just like running on adrenaline and like having a lot of fun, but also hardly remembering what happened, which was terrible. It was fun in the moment, but like afterwards, just like come back from the show, just like having to recover for a couple of days. It's like, that's not sustainable. So I'm so glad that that's not the way that shows operate for me any longer. It's just nothing like that. Still fun though. Still all about like getting to see all the people and have those fun times and like just connect and like, it's like a little resurgence. It's like what keeps me in the hobby in a big part of the way is getting to have those moments of being back at the show. Cause online could be such a drain. I've all but pulled back completely from like Facebook and Facebook groups. There was a time I was heavily involved in those. Like I moderated one of the biggest Python groups on Facebook, helped build it. I built the group Positive Pythons and it was huge. It got huge. It was like enormous, tens of thousands of members.
Yeah.
And eventually I was just like, there's so draining, like the different ways that people interact on the internet. I can't like, I've got a life to live over here. I can't let that suck me into that. But in person, it's never like that. Even if there's like drama or beef, whatever online, you meet at the show and it was immediately squashed. And it's like,
yeah.
So that's where I soak up that energy. So I'm fortunate that these guys invited me to be part of the show because I get to do that and be there and have those experiences and have them part of my regular rhythm, for fall and spring. We just had our last show of the spring and then there'll be a whole section of shows in the fall and we'll keep that rhythm going and it'll be great.
What's your protocol for that, for traveling? Like, how do you maintain sleep? How do you maintain nutrition? How do you do all these things? Fitness? How do you maintain all of that because I have a real hard time with travel, where when I travel, I just feel lost and it's chaos and I feel terrible because I'm not getting the fitness or the sleep or the nutrition.
There's a couple things. So I'll tell you what I did at first and then we'll transition to what I do now. I toured with a band for 10 years. So I've got that, like, being on the road is a second home for me. Like every time I'd even just when I started traveling to Freedom Breeder, which is about 3 hours from where I live. And so it's a little bit of a road trip, but like, as soon as I get like 10 minutes down the road, there's this like thing that happens with my body and my soul where I was like, my second home. You're just like back on the road again. Like I there's a part of me that loves it. I just love being on the road. I met plenty of people. I realized quickly, that there's lots of people that's not the case. We'd have different horn players or backup singers or different people who jump in the band for like stints of tours or for whole tours. And like at a certain point, everybody would just break, just like be crying and want to go home. It was like, oh man, I'm sorry. That's your experience. Like we're having the time of our lives out here.
Yeah.
but I get it. It's not for everybody to be on the road.
Willie Nelson wrote a whole song about it.
Yes, he did. It's one of my favorite songs. I used that song in one of my I incorporated that as well as on the road again. What's the other? Ramblin' Man. Lord, I was born a rambling man. I happen to live right by Highway 41, so it was great for the filming process of that song, including that song in the video. I made a song about being on the road, actually, like on one of my trips to Freedom Breeder. Miguel still says it's one of his favorite episodes to this day because like I did this review of a hotel that I was staying in by the train tracks and like pretended I was a super sarcastic, like talking about all the fancy features of this hotel. But just like the worst like crack motel you've ever seen in your life. but I just talked every feature of it up like it was awesome. Anyway, I included that song, all the different like road traveling songs in that video, and like Wherever I May Roam by Metallica and Willie Nelson and anyway,
such great songs,
dude. So I had that background. So being on the road, like it's comfortable for me to be traveling. So that helps. Even towards the beginning of these shows, I was setting up interview booths at the show, which I'm not doing now. I'm just more going and like filming vlog style content or just like man on the street interview style instead of setting up a huge booth. But Dave would walk in with his GoPro and be like, dude, what are you doing? Like he'd pull his GoPro out of his pocket and be like, why? I was like, because Dave, I'm a professional. But I would roll into the airport with over 200 pounds of gear, like a big case, a second big case, and a third big case. I'm like, Tinley was a particular monster because you got to like take the tram to the rental car center. And I'm like, that's part of why I started lifting weights. She was like, man, there's no way I can sustain this unless I get stronger because this is too much gear. I'm going to hurt myself. Finally got it wheedled down. So this is more of the logistical side, is like getting this travel filming kit down to, even when I went to film for the commercials on this last show, we had the news show happening with the collector side of the Kansas show. I got all my stuff packed down to where I'm not carrying this huge case, which is definitely helpful. But that story I mentioned about doing push-ups with Nick at the first show and him being like, oh, this is unacceptable. I can't keep up with this guy in push-ups. I need to get my fitness under control. Having a partner in crime, I honestly don't think it would be possible otherwise. For me, I'm not saying you couldn't. I know there's plenty of people out there that'll be fine on their own, like being diligent about, okay, I'm getting in the gym. I'm going to do this. I did that at a couple shows. If there's a hotel gym, we do a little thing. But with Nick being on board, I know that we have a schedule. Like we are going to because my workout schedule right now is Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So I know that Nick is going to be on board and we are going to hit the gym no matter how much either one of us is like, oh, but there's a show. And like, there might be like, we'll push the other to just like, and it works out perfectly in a way. Like sometime one morning I'll be like, yeah, I don't need to go. He'll be like, come on, we're going to the gym. Like, I don't want to, but yes, we're going to the gym. And it'll be vice versa. He'll be like, I really don't feel like, dude, shut up. We're going to the gym.
Yeah.
So that's a huge part of it. And then I track my stuff. Troy making fun of me at the dinners. I've got this pocket scale and I'm busting it out.
Do you really? I need one of those, dude.
I'll have to. I know it's upstairs. There's one you can find it on Amazon. It looks like a little device like this. It's like a little small thing like this, but it folds out with legs. So it's got like folds out to be a little tripod. Wow. And it's literally $20 on Amazon. You can fit it in your pocket.
You're like a traveling drug dealer.
Yeah. Yes. So you take that thing, you set your plate on it, and you can weigh it in ounces or grams, and we'll be at the all you can eat. One of the places we almost always go is Korean or Japanese barbecue with the all you can eat meat stuff, which is great because I'm trying to maintain a high protein diet. So, but I'll still bring my thing. I'll set my plate, and every time they're throwing out the meat, I'll like just kind of take a picture of like how much weight I'm throwing on there. So I'll track my calories to the best of my ability while I'm on the road. And I bring protein bars and pre Ziplocked. I literally look like a drug dealer. I got these powders, all these Ziploc baggies of powder in my bag.
Oh my God. Yeah. You probably got creatine and protein whey powder.
Yes. Exactly. So that's it. It's like having a plan, before you go, knowing like, okay, Friday morning, like we're going to go hit the gym and I'm going to try and stick to my I got a little slack on a couple of nights, but I had been aiming for this specific weight goal, which I know it's not all about the weight on the scale, but it is still a helpful. I bring a scale too. I bring a food scale and I bring a bathroom scale, so I can continue monitoring and tracking when I'm on the road.
You are crazy, dude.
Yes, I am a little bit. There's a little bit of intensity going on with this. Like, I'm a pretty chill guy, but was it a dream? I don't know if it was a dream. I think it was a dream. That's
You're
weird.
not a chill guy, buddy. you can't have two travel scales and be a chill guy.
In some respects, like, I'll be like, all right, we can let this flow. Like, if somebody, if some kind of fight pops off, I'll be like pretty chill about the whole situation. But yeah, when it comes to myself, no, we're getting intense.
If you get in a fight, you're gonna be like, all right, let's weigh in. It's got to be fair. We got to be in the same weight class.
I'm trying to pull up because I obviously weighed in this morning, because why wouldn't I? I weighed in on the road. Of course, I weigh in at home.
Sure.
I've now checked in and weighed myself and tracked my calories. I'm on a 151 day streak right now.
Nice.
So that I don't want to break that streak. So it's like, I got to bring the scale. Otherwise I'm breaking the streak. Even if I go over and I mess up for a few days, I call it messing up. It's just, I got to give myself more grace. Is having a daddy-daughter weekend and, having ice cream or whatever. I still track and I still weigh. Even if I don't track, I definitely weigh in so I can make sure I'm tracking the progress. I mean, I went up like 5 pounds over the weekend, which is obviously mostly water weight, but it's that accountability of checking in with myself by at least weighing in every morning, having a plan and hopefully a partner in crime for hitting the gym on the road.
Yeah.
And then just like wanting to stick, knowing that I'm going to be weighing myself in every morning is at least somewhat motivating to try and stick to the calorie and macros plan for the day.
What about sleep? How do you handle sleep? Because that's always the hardest thing for me. I cannot, especially if I'm traveling without my wife. I've been with my wife since before I could drink alcohol. So like when she's not next to me in bed, I have a hell of a time sleeping.
I've got a sleep mask. I've got noise canceling headphones. I'd like to get just some regular earplugs. Noise canceling headphones work pretty well though too. But I do have, leading worship at the church and stuff. I got these in-ear monitors that were form fitted to the inside of my ear with a mold. And so I'm thinking about ordering from that same company that made those, just some earplugs that fit directly in my ears. So there's like, super completely sealed. So that on top of, most recently, I've been utilizing the sleep gummies, which have either different herbs or melatonin combination or whatever. Those have been super helpful. And I track my sleep as well. And it's not always great. Like, to your point, there's like an acclimation period, especially if I'm getting to like Denver, it's like a mile above where I live now.
Yeah.
There's like an acclimation process, and not eating close to bedtime, which is again tough on the road because it seems like it's almost a prerequisite. We're at the show, we're having dinner, we have to go get ice cream. And ice cream is like heroin or crack for me. I'm like, it's like I'm having if everybody's having ice cream and I'm not, that doesn't seem like a type of life that, like, I'm intense with myself, but I'm not so intense that I'm going to sit there and watch everybody eat ice cream. That sounds like just a life not worth living. So I try to limit still portions, and I've done pretty okay with that at some of the shows. Just like I'll even weigh out the ice cream, like, give me the cup and see how much this weighs, track it, and eat a reasonable amount of ice cream instead of the 2 pints that I know I would easily do. One time Robin bet me $1 because there's this creamery in Denver that has some of the most amazing ice cream with so many cherries in the cherry flavor. It's like packed with cherries. And Robin bet me one time on the trip, he's like, I bet you $1 you can't eat a pint every day while you're here. I was like, who are you talking to, bro?
Oh man, that is some cruelty right there.
I was like, this is gonna be the easiest $1 you ever lost in your life, buddy. The first thing I did, I got there, there was a freezer at the venue spot, so I just sent her pictures of, look, I got 2 pints for every day. How about that?
Oh my word, dude. Yeah, you're a junkie.
Yeah, a little bit. Luckily, I've got it pretty much, it's way better than it's ever been. Way better. So I've got actual, like, it stems from like actual addiction issues. And fortunately, it's, today the major addiction is just ice cream, which still can be a problem, for health. but I've seemed to have mostly gotten even that under control. My wife's kind of dumbfounded. She's like, wow, you're like almost like a new person when it comes to ice cream. Like, I eat so much ice cream. It's so stupid.
Where was the addiction during your time in the band? Is that where that was that like your prior life?
I mean, it did happen during band stuff. There was, I mean, I played in a reggae band, so there's obviously cannabis, but I don't, that's not really an addiction issue, I don't think. But there was some harder stuff that I fell into in my early 20s. You know, I smoked weed for the first time when I was like 14. So there was like, there was some of that, you know. I definitely had that growing up. It was like, it was definitely not a good kid, you know, as far as like that goes. Wow. Mostly good as far as I didn't like really do anybody wrong for the most part, like on a personal level. But for myself, I didn't take very good care of myself. I was not kind to myself. Yeah, a lot of that stems from, we don't have to go through all of it, but there's like, you know, some stuff that happened when I was younger that I think it stems from just different like emotional traumas that you go through as a very young child that I was processing through in unhealthy ways into teenage years and adulthood. And
how did you overcome that?
It was only by the grace of God, bro. Like I didn't go to any kind of, I was on, so amphetamines, methamphetamines were the thing that really like dragged me in. You know, I did all kinds of different, you know, drugs, like basically anything you can think of besides heroin. I think I've done it. But it was the methamphetamines for whatever reason. I remember like I've got a voice for it, and like it was like I did all kinds of other things just like recreationally, but those things was like, it was like something grabbed me and was like, coming with me, boy, we're going for a ride. I was like, whoo. It was a ride. It was like I tried to quit so many times and thought I would successfully. Like I'd go try to willpower my way through it. I'd like go sit in circles, you know, where I knew people were doing it, and I'd sit in the circle instead of hitting the pipe. I would do push-ups just to like prove myself like I can beat this. Like I can literally go sit in the circle, do push-ups instead of getting high. And I would do that, but then I would still find myself failing like either a week later or a couple weeks later, not even being in a intentionally circle, just like literally feeling like something was taking me for a ride. Like, oh, here we go. You're like almost like watching somebody else go get more drugs.
Jeez.
And like I said, I didn't go to any kind of AA or anything like that. I was just on another clean break. Sometimes I'd be clean for like, you know, couple months or more at a time, but still fall back into it. And it was on one of those streaks. I was probably like, you know, several months clean. I was by myself in an apartment that I lived in, and I was just kind of cleaning stuff up or doing whatever. And I found in this jacket in the closet, you know, when you're a junkie like that or on drugs like that, I was trying to hide it from everybody, even though some people it was impossible to hide it from, but I was hiding it pretty well from the people that really cared about me, apparently. So I would hide things in random places. And so I found like a pipe that was already loaded with drugs in it. And I was home alone, and for several months clean. I just looked, I was like, whoa, of course I found something hiding because I must stash stuff everywhere. I remember I walked into the kitchen and just like lit it with the lighter and like watched it do this little dance. I'm just like, whoa, dude. And then, I mean, to this day, I can only say it's the grace of God, because there was no reason for me. I was literally had nothing to do that day. I could have just like hit that pipe and just gotten high again and went down that same road that I'd been down many times on relapse or whatever. But for some reason that day, I looked at it, walked into the bedroom, grabbed a sock, stuck the pipe in it, wrapped it up, stomped on it, smashed it, threw it in the trash, crumpled up in the corner of the kitchen in a pile of tears, and never touched it again.
Wow.
And I had relapse dreams for like a decade.
I bet.
I think I even just had one like last week.
Isn't that terrifying? And you wake up and you're so relieved that it's not reality.
Oh yeah. Thank the Lord. Yeah. It's weird. I don't have them nearly as often. I used to have them all the time, you know, for like I said, for almost 10 years, I had them on a fairly regular basis. They're once in a blue moon. Like I couldn't tell you the time before this last one. But it's always just like, yeah, no, I am grateful for the experience, because of you being able to, mainly because of like, I can commiserate, or I can actually relate to people that are going through something like that, and know what they're going through when I'm trying to help somebody through something like that. Like I can come from a place that's not just like, I know, like I physically have been and know where you're at. So I can help you walk through this. So I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for most things. I think you mentioned at the beginning, like just being grateful for like what we're able to have. Like we're in the top 1% of the world, where we're at with all these things. And with that too, like I'm stronger than I've ever been in my life, have a beautiful family. Like it's such a different road than I could have gone down, that I was headed down. I could be done. I could have never made it to past one of those battles. And so I'm just grateful every day that I'm still here and in such a wonderful place,
Yeah. How did you overcome, or how did you get past the trauma?
The trauma of
that you mentioned, that you kind of alluded to from your childhood.
Being able to talk about it with people, being able to open up to the fact that it happened, and be okay with it, and be like, even if that was, and also not blame it, because there's definitely parts of me that think like the reason that I ended up doing some of the things I did as a teenager, and the ways that I, the introverted nature that I had, that I felt like I couldn't be known or seen. I literally felt like I had to hide myself as a person. I would physically wear like clothes and hoods and stuff in classrooms so that people couldn't physically see me as much as possible, because I was so ashamed of who I am as a person, which is not true. That's not what I should believe, but that's the lie I was believing, is that if somebody knows who I truly am, that's bad, because they're going to hate who that person is. So being able to talk through and actually say out loud the things that happened to rooms full of people, and process and pray through those things. That's part of, because I'm, there's still a process there that I hadn't gone through. But it's in these faith-based communities, these Christ-based communities, that I've been able to have those honest conversations, and just honestly open up and bare my soul, for better, lack of words. But that's really what I'm doing, is like just bearing my soul to a room full of people, which would have been the most terrifying thing for me at any point in life before, and just be able to be accepting of what reality has been, and also know that nobody hates me for it, and that there's like this amazing healing that happens there. And just to be completely blunt about it, it's just is Jesus and who Jesus is, and the things that he's done in my life. That's the only answer. Nothing else before that has ever been sustainable or true or real, that has actually healed me in a way that even with these kids that I get to spend time with at youth group, like spending the last few years with some of these students who just graduated this year, like the Lord used that to completely redeem my school experience. And my middle school and high school experience was terrible. I hated it. And now I've got to have this experience with these guys, and like it's just completely redeemed like what a school experience could be for me somehow. Even though I'm in my 40s, it's like I've gotten to have this healing of my. I remember one of the first nights I walked in to help lead worship at one of the youth groups in middle school night. I walked in, I was like, "No chance, buddy. I do not belong here." Like all those middle school traumas came back, just like, "No, I can't be in this room, dude. This is terrifying." But I even was going to quit. And I was talking with the people at the church, and I was like, "Yeah, I think I'll ride out this year, but there's no way I can do this. I can't do this. I'm too busy, and there's too much other stuff." Like I basically threw my hat in the ring a couple weeks in, and was like, "Can't do it." And then Lord had other plans, and so I've been there for the past few years, and it's like one of the best things I've ever done with my life, as far as like fulfillment, healing, and relationship. Just yeah, whole different level. Like actually when, as a touring musician, for a long time, we played lots of fun shows, lots of cool, amazing concerts, and like, big crowds. Sometimes we played like Olympia Hemp Fest one time. There was like 20 to 30,000 people. It was like,
Wow.
like incredible. But nothing compares to this one Saturday night that I got to have with just our, the students from our church, as well as like, there's an event called Awaken that the church puts on and calls in students from the county, from different churches, and we all come together and have this moment of worship. And that night, there was one particular Saturday evening, like I've never had so much fun and felt deeper connection with music and people than that night. It was just like, took all those other nights and just like, it was just, I'll talk about it for the rest of my life because it's just the most incredible moment. Yeah, it's so healing and so like fun and free and just like, wow,
That's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
That's wild, man. I didn't know that about you, and it's so cool that you're able to take your trauma, take your addiction, and use that to help people now. And because I feel like so many people have stories of trauma or addiction, but they often don't share it because of the shame. And meanwhile, it's like so many people are just taking that and stuffing it down and hiding it, and letting it out is actually the way that you can heal and help other people heal.
You want to come say hi? My wife's, she's about to take off, so have her say.
Oh, right on. Yeah, dude, you gotta get off, man.
Want to say hi to Adam? This is Adam, a super cool guy.
Oh, right on. Hello.
Hello, it's nice to meet you.
Right in the microphone.
Oh, hold on. Purple. Okay. Hey, how's it going?
Good. I know you guys have to get going. I'm sorry for holding your husband up.
No, it's fine. I'm just going to take our kids fishing at our little local lake.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, they went last night and caught a bunch of fish, and they're just eager to go back. So,
heck yeah. Right on. That sounds like a good time.
Fishing duties. Yeah. Well, cool. Nice to meet you.
It was nice to meet you too.
Yep. Expert in the idiot. I like that. Okay, call me after.
Okay.
Ooh, nice
I think that was, I forgot you mentioned that. I remember the name of the, I think he bumped the camera. It doesn't matter. It's fine. It's fine. No, it's good. That was one of the things that stood out to me, I think, about your chosen title. I just love the humility in the title of your podcast. You know what I mean?
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, it's like, because that's probably not true. I've listened to several things like, this guy is definitely not an idiot. But I think I mentioned the first time, I was like, well, I'm gonna do the idiot role, okay? You do the expert.
I wish, man. I wish. It's well, it's there was a fear that I had when I was starting it, that people would think that I was trying to come to them and act like I knew what I was talking about. And it was my way of letting people know that I don't know what I'm talking about, and I want to learn, and you can learn with me if you'd like. And that's kind of where it came from.
That's good.
But yeah, man, your videos are great. Your editing is next level. I mean, I as somebody who I edit my own stuff and I put my own stuff together, and the amount of effort it takes for me to put into like an intro or something like that, like making a new one. I made like a sort of a Star Wars parody themed intro for Nick Mutton's episode because he's a big Star Wars nerd. And it took me like 8 hours to do this one simple thing, this one 30-second thing. And people don't often appreciate that. And the quality of your edited videos is insane, man. The amount of I watch those things and I'm like, the amount of effort that you put into that is obvious. Like, it's wild how much effort you put into it. And if you're not putting effort into it, you must be like the most gifted editor of all time, because they're really, the editing is next level. It's very theatrical.
Thanks, dude. I I enjoy it. That's all it is. I think I put in my title video nerd. Yeah. Because I just nerd out on that stuff. I have from the first moment, like I mentioned with the the GoPro diving into the water, just like geeking out. Nobody else cared about that. Maybe my wife said it was stupid, but I was like, I love it. Like I'm having fun with it though. That's all that matters. And there's so much more stuff I would love to. I have the knowledge and ability to do some pretty wild things at this point because I've been editing video for like almost a decade now. I guess it's been over a decade, and there's so much fun. There's so much cool stuff. It's just time that it takes. Like there was something I did a video a couple weeks ago where I went around the show. I think somebody commented to Troy, like, which is a common comment that I think a lot of shows or show promoters get. Like, it's just all ball pythons and crested geckos at this show, which they
I
said,
watched that video. Yeah.
Oh, you watched that? Okay, so
yeah.
So I was like, well, let's find out. Like, if that's the claim, like, we don't want to say, well, no, it's not. Let's get to the nuts and bolts. Let's just go table by table, and we'll see what the percentages are.
And you were very fair in your scoring. You were very fair. You were very honest.
Yeah, I tried to be like just be but so the reason I bring that video up is I'm definitely gonna do it. I took people's comments and like what would be better categories or what would be a better way to do it. So I'm gonna hopefully apply that on the next time I do it if I do it again. But the thing about that video that was difficult was I had the little counters there every time we checked off a table, like, for the different categories. And I really wanted the numbers to roll up like a old style analog clock, bedside clock, where the number rolls up from one and makes a little noise.
Yeah.
Every time it goes up. And bro, I can't really explain to you how complicated that was. It literally took me a day and a half just to make that happen the way that I wanted it to look. And even then, it's maybe not as good as I could have wanted to be, but I was happy at least with what it ended up being. And it just seems so, like, to your point, like probably people watch, oh, cool, little counter that ticks up the thing. I could have just changed the number, and that would have been like so simple. But the fact that I wanted the one number to roll up from the other one and go, like maybe go back and look at it and just see like the one rolls and becomes a 2, and you still see the 1 and the 2 at the same time in the shot because it's rolling up like an analog clock. And I'm satisfied with that, even if nobody else cares. So I'm like, yes, that's what I wanted. That's what happened. I don't care if nobody saw me sitting in front of my computer like a total slave for a day and a half, but it's what I wanted to see.
Dude, isn't that wild? Like you see it in your mind. That has to be like the affliction of an artist, is seeing it in your mind and then wanting to see it in reality and create that. And you can't rest until you've made it exactly the way that you envisioned it.
Right. I mean, sometimes the funny thing with YouTube and schedules is like, it's not always that you don't have that time necessarily. Yeah. It's like, okay, this video's got to go up on Friday. So it's going to be what it is. And sometimes you just got to be okay. Like, that's all right. You can go. I know your wings aren't fully developed yet, but jump out of the nest, little video, and go to be part of the world. And one of the fun ones I did recently too was like just the beginning of an uncut video where that's funny. That's actually how I ended up getting Riley that rack, because I was like, I'm selling this rack. I want somebody who watches the channel to get it, and ended up being Riley, which is great. But I did this effect where I jumped over the house, or it looks like I jumped over my house at the beginning of the video, and I completely forgot to film a shot of just the house without me in it. So it's like, that doesn't work. You have to have a shot of the house with nothing happening in it. But I was so in the moment, had the kids, and Hillary wasn't home yet. So I did the jump, but then I never did a shot around the house. So I typed up this, I was like, okay, this will be acceptable. I just typed up this long paragraph that took up the whole screen about what I had planned to do with that jump and how I messed it up, and it's not going to work, but it's okay. I'm putting the video out anyway. Now that I know, and I put it up there for like 3 seconds. It's definitely not enough time to read that whole paragraph. And I know when somebody watches it, like they care to see what that says, they're going to pause it, and it's actually going to help the video performance, because it's like, oh, people are like engaged with this video because you don't want to see what that paragraph was on the page.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
But I didn't end up because I was like, the next day before I actually had to put the video, I was like, oh, wait, I know how I could do it, even though I didn't do it right. I took a still frame into Photoshop and then just removed myself and my son from the picture and inlaid the picture back in with a mask so that the sky was masked out. So I could still jump over the house, and I'll just splice that into the video, and it'll still look like I jumped over the house. And the timing was so good because I just had the still up there, and the way that I landed and the timing of the dog walking into the frame was like, when I jumped, my son was behind me in the video. So like, I land, and then I get up off the ground, and my son walks out from behind. The dog walks into the frame. It just like ended up being perfect. So I took away the paragraph, which I was actually kind of sad about. I was like, dang, I was hoping to put that paragraph was going to be cool. People were going to read it. And then instead I was like, but I did make it look like I jumped over the house. So we'll get rid of the paragraph.
That's hilarious. Dude, that's so much effort.
It was so much fun. And so I called my son and was like, Noah, look at this. How cool is this?
I saw that, and when I watched it, I'm like, how did he even do that? And I'm like sitting there like, how could I do that in Adobe Premiere Pro? And immediately my brain starts going like, how did he do that? How can you do that? It is interesting. It's interesting to have done some of the stuff and be able to watch videos and be appreciate it, but also appreciate the labor that went into it and wonder how do you do that? It's really cool. And so I'm not a religious guy. I was raised devout Catholic, and I actually have some trauma that comes from that. And I can appreciate your faith and where you come from, just hearing your passion and the love and the good that you're doing with it. That story, the stories you told and everything that you said is, you made it make sense. It's very, it just makes sense, right? Like it makes sense from a standpoint of following the teachings of Jesus, right? And having that positivity and that love and that kindness that is in your love or in your life rather, and you're giving that to other people. It's very cool and it's admirable. And I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Right on. Yeah. I mean, well, that's really all it's all about. I think you're definitely not alone as far as like trauma from a religion. I think that's a all too common story. It just speaks to the brokenness of people, and, religion is our attempt at that. I mean, even Jesus, like when he came, right, he was like the people that were supposed to be the religious leaders of the day. Those are the people he was like, guys, wrong. Mm-hmm. Like he literally called them like children of Satan, like little like brood of vipers, like supposed to be representing, what God is to people. And you're just like literally in that, put yourself in that position where like, we're the religious leaders, and you're just messing it up so badly. Which, I mean, both my parents were also raised Catholic and don't have a faith today, as far as, well, my dad's actually on some kind of journey right now, so that's kind of cool to see. But I think people just, I mean, I do believe in the Bible, because I think that is Jesus too. Like that's the word, at least from the studying I've done. All the studying and diving into it that I've done, it just keeps coming back, like with these different truth tidbits that just like puts on my soul or whatever. But one of the verses that always sticks out to me is Romans 3:23, which is all fall short, all have sinned, all fall short of the glory of God. Like, and all, like not one person, not this person, not that person, but literally everybody falls short of what the standard that has been set by God. And that's all of us. And that unfortunately leads to things like religion and people being hurt by people who are supposed to be living for the living God, which we just mess up left and right. And it's not to give an excuse for it. It's to say, yeah, it is to acknowledge, like, yeah, like even Catholicism, like has its, there's things that it gets wrong about what Jesus said, and I'm not a biblical scholar by any means or stretch the imagination, but what you said is true. It just comes back to Jesus and what he did and his self-sacrifice. You're saying sharing that love or being the love of God. Like he was the only person ever to walk the face of the earth that came with that perfection and self-sacrifice, where he literally gave his life for love, to share that love, like the most pure form of love, to lay down your life for the good of others around you and actually do it without fault. And that's the good news, I guess, is that like we don't have to, we just trust in what has been done, and hopefully that actually has an effect on our lives to a way that we live it out, not on our own power, because we're going to mess it up. And I will mess it up, guaranteed, is leaning into what has already been done and living by that example that was set before me, which again, I know I'm going to fail at. I'll probably fail at some point today. But keeping that in the back, any of the good things that have happened in the past few years, I can say have been the moments that I've gotten out of the way and allowed God to do the work of whatever it is, whether it's like inspiring somebody or getting somebody through a hard time or being the person that needed to be there at that moment, is when I stepped out of the way and was like humble enough, just like, all right, I have all my ideas about what I'm going to do here and how I'm going to approach this, but I'm not going to do those things because they don't seem like the thing that, I don't know, what I literally just like let go of my own self ideas and just like, all right, Lord, you step in and do whatever it is that you think needs to be done here. And it's usually something where my own self is saying, nope, that sounds stupid and awkward. Maybe not stupid, but it sounds very awkward. It sounds like, yes, vulnerable. And there's going to be this, and there's going to be this moment. Like I'm probably going to catch heat for it in some way, shape or form, but it's not my idea. And I actually don't want to do it, but I'm going to lean into it because it seems like the right thing to do. And when I do have stepped into those, they always end up being like, well, yeah, that sounded stupid and awkward and probably painful and things that could have gone bad from it. But what actually happened was like, oh, look at that. One of the most beautiful things that's ever happened in your life that you got to witness is like, all right, I'll try to step into those more often and not be such a stubborn-headed buffoon that rejects all these ideas that the Lord puts on my heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that, man. I appreciate just the kindness and love aspect and really, trying to follow in the path of Jesus is admirable, because sometimes you feel like did you see that Civil War movie? And, there's this army guy with like rose colored glasses or whatever. And he asked the guys or, this group of people, what kind of Americans are you? And I kind of feel that way sometimes where with religious people, it's what kind of Christian are you? Where it's like, it's almost like people are waiting to judge someone based off of what kind of Christian they are, what kind of, like it's at least that's how, a lot of people I've met here in Florida, can be, where it's just judgment constantly, and it's like, how is that following in the footsteps of the person, that you're supposed to be following, where it's like constant negativity and judgment and that, and unfortunately that was a lot of my experience with religion, growing up for 18 years was that sort of angle.
Yeah, it's hard. Sometimes I'll watch, like faith-based videos or like different people doing different stuff in like Christian YouTube space, and like see like it's so hard sometimes because it's like there's good points being made, and sometimes, but also a lot of times it just seems like it's the same as everything else, like attacking this person or this person for this thing, and I'm like, bro, what are we doing?
They lost the plot.
Yeah, and not to say that there's not moments when because I do believe like there's things in love, like there's definitely been hard things some of the things I've had to help walk through with people. Sometimes it's like, man, I don't want to tell you this, but it would be wrong of me not to tell you, like, this is where you're messing up, man. This is where this is like, you want to not go down that road. Like, you need to not do that. You need to change this, or you need to, and sometimes it's hard to, but if you really love somebody, you care about them, like sometimes it's a hard truth. Like, whether it's like a buddy that like, like is facing like suicidal thoughts and whatnot, and like is potentially going down that road, and it's hard to like want to be firm with them because like you want to be as loving and kind as possible. This is like a delicate situation where you might lose one of your best friends. Yeah. But fortunately, the Lord put me in a spot where it's like, yeah, he is, and he also knows you, and he knows the thing that has bonded your love together is this basis of honesty and truth. And so it seemed there was many parts of me that were like fighting, like, don't you just be kind and loving here. But what kind of loving ended up being was me
Yeah. All right, man. Well, we'll wrap it up. I got one more question for you though. Your goal of 10 snakes, what 10 snakes would it be?
Oh,
as you sit in a room of, what is it, 40, 60, something?
Yeah, I mean, with all the babies, you know, it's like probably closer to 70. Oh gosh, dude. That's why
Retic's
I don't.
Got to stay, right? Halo was the name.
Halo's got to stay. That's even if you go down to one.
The
Halo,
blood's got to stay.
Blood's got to stay. Sangria's got to stay. The first ball python I got at the East Bay Vivarium has got to stay, even though he's a male that will probably never breed again. So there's 3. At least I got 3. That's good.
Dude, I think you can cut down to 3.
I do have a snake from Garrett. It's a goat line. He started this line because I was standing in his snake room one day and he was just like, I basically told him like, I'm not into your super dwarf retic like marketing scheme. Like I don't
I'm glad that somebody's telling him that.
Like it's not working on me. Like we did a podcast forever. Like you always try to get sales. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to podcast with you. You're going to be a salesy douche. Like stop. So I was standing there. I was like, you know, actually, if you took what's going on with this snake and made it happen in this snake, you know, as a small dwarf, like I think I would be into that. And so he like actually did a breeding that like made that snake happen, and he sent me one, and I was like, all right. So I think I got to keep that one too.
All right.
So I got down to 4. That's pretty good. But if I'm gonna keep more than one, here's the thing: if I'm gonna keep more than one, I still want to breed, because obviously you can't breed with one. That's the idea of going to one. Is like I just got my one pet, no breeding.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing 10, there's breeding happening. So I can't figure that out right now. It's going to take us too much time. But at least I've got my 4, and saying the blood python will be part of the breeding, and maybe Halo too. So maybe it'd be blood pythons, reticulated pythons, ball pythons. And so I'd need at least 6 snakes there. We'll figure out the other 4.
And then you gotta introduce Argentine boas back into your collection.
That would be cool.
They're like the coolest snake, dude.
They're pretty cool. Oh, okay. So a pair of Argentine boas, because I would love to produce some more, because they were fantastic. Okay, pair of retics, pair of blood pythons, pair of ball pythons, pair of Argentines,
dude,
and a pair of indigos.
Dude, oh yeah, indigos. Do you keep indigos?
I have one female. The male passed away from some aggressive carcinoma several years back. But
oh no,
yeah. But
are they Easterns or
Eastern? Yeah.
Okay, I have Texas.
Nice
indigos.
Those are awesome.
That's cool, man. That's right. I saw your video where you were feeding a stillborn ball python to your indigo.
Yeah, that was the same video. I jumped over the house.
Oh, okay. That was the same video.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked me that question. I had no idea how I was going to do that.
See, and you figured it out, man.
Put me on the spot. We got to get it done.
Well, because I've heard you mention the 10 snakes, and I sit there and I wonder, I'm like, what 10 snakes would it be though? But that's honestly a super solid lineup with bloods, retics, ball pythons, Argentines, and indigos. That's so solid. I have all of those animals with the exception of the retics because I'm in Florida.
Ooh, and Garrett's snake is a male, and that pairing makes 0 sense, but it wouldn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's gonna happen. All right, man. Well, we'll wrap this up. I appreciate you very much. Thank you for coming on. It was a lot of fun getting to know you, man.
Yeah. Thanks,
you know,
bro.
it's wild. Like you kind of with channels like yours, you'll pick up videos here or there. It shows up in the algorithm, right? But it's rare that you really get to know the person behind the videos really well. And I feel like I've learned a lot about you, man. And I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story with me.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the space, man. I definitely appreciate it.